Happy Hump Day, everybody! It's a Wednesday on the Sean O'Connell Show. Glad to have you with us. It's Wednesday for you. It's Friday on the show for me. So if you're like, why is he going so heavy today on the Super Bowl preview? It's because I will not be hosting the show tomorrow or Friday. I will be in Dubai. PFL fights on Super Bowl Saturday on ESPN. And then, of course, the big game itself will be on Sunday between the Patriots and the Seahawks. Yes, it's 2026, not 2015, but here we are, okay? We're going to have Chad Brown, who is not only a great member of the sports media these days, a former Colorado Buffalo, but also a former Patriot and a former Seahawk. Chad Brown's going to join us. It was set for 11:30, but probably closer to 11:45, maybe noon. He's in that unfortunate world of flight delays right now where you just got to give it a little bit of grace. So we will do our best to get Chad Brown when he is available. Eric Weddle's going to join us with his Super Bowl opinions at noon. And then we're going to get Between the Pipes with Adrian Denny. Show today and every day is brought to you by our friends over at Big Willie's, 1717 South Main, Utah's #1 pool hall, Salt Lake City's #1 sports bar, a delicious craft food menu that Little Bird has told me is going to have extra special items for the big game on Sunday. And
are they coming in to do the drawing today too? Tonight's the game.
It sounds right. Right? I mean,
maybe they'll draw it and let us know. Last time they came in studio, so we'll see there too.
That was, I think, the plan. But in any case, I mean, it's a busy week down there getting ready for what is going to be a massive weekend. You have Jazz games this week. You have Utah Mammoth games this week. Best place to go watch those is at Big Willie's, 1717 South Main. And as always, tell them OC sent you. Incredible drink specials and the food. Do me a favor. Order the thing on the menu that you would not normally order. Like if you're a burger and fries kind of guy or gal, go grab the chicken sandwich instead and be amazed at how delightful it is. All right. The Utah Jazz yesterday made a blockbuster trade that sent some ripples across the NBA, and it wasn't the only big Jaren Jackson Jr. was not the biggest name to move yesterday. That would be James Harden. But we are a day away from the trade deadline, and the Giannis information is still up in the air. Will he be moving? Maybe not. Are the Kings going to move on from DeMar DeRozan? Maybe so, maybe not. I debated as I was preparing the show last night and this morning whether I wanted to give the James Harden's news even an oxygen, like any kind of energy at all, because I just don't get it. And we talked about this with Gordy Chiesa on the show yesterday. James Harden, at this point in his career, he's an 11-time All-Star, right? He is one of the best scorers in NBA history. He's a guy that you cannot do anything but look at him and say, that's an excellent basketball player. But he's oddly, and I'm not giving you any information you don't already know, he's not a winning basketball player. If the bill of goods that Donovan Mitchell is being sold right now, and Evan Mobley's being sold right now, and everyone in Cleveland is being sold right now, is that we brought in James Harden to help us win a championship, I'm looking at that as a fan, as a member of that team, as Donovan Mitchell, and I'm going, what? Wait, what? We have the sample size with James Harden. We know what it looks like. He is a choke artist in the playoffs. He is an all-time malcontent quitter type personality. And it's just not something that if I am talking about team chemistry, championship chemistry, it's not the grenade you want to throw into a locker room at this time of the year, especially. I know I'm not giving you like hot takes right now. I think that this is the sort of universal opinion of anyone who doesn't own a James Harden jersey, who hasn't decided like that's my guy. By the way, James Harden, 6th man of the year, James Harden, Oklahoma City James Harden, I was a big fan of that guy. James Harden, as soon as he knew he could be franchise cornerstone, max contract type guy, it was like, oh, I don't like that guy.
I didn't have a ton of hate for him his early years with the Rockets, but as time wore on, it was like, okay, I'm just tired of this guy. And I was talking about this with Porter yesterday, OC, during the drive. I was off air, of course. I was like, he and Jimmy Butler. Jimmy's a different kind of player because that guy, when he is engaged, is a winning player, especially in the playoffs, right? But they're both the all-time I'm never going to be happy guys, like superstar talented players. When is it that James Harden and his people are just going to be like, you know what? I'm actually content in this place. Like, when is that? He seemed to be that way in Houston, but then they started to get to a position where they're tanking and they're rebuilding, and he revolted. And he's been on. This will be his 4th team in the last 6 years. OC. Look, and remarkably, he's still never missed the playoffs in his career.
Do you know
moving around that much?
Do you know these people in your life who it's like, you know, you got a cousin, you got a sister-in-law, you got a brother-in-law, you got a friend from high school who just is always breaking up with their significant other, and it's always the other person that's a problem. I can say this, by the way, because I probably was this guy for a certain period of my life, right? Where it was like relationship to and it's never like I just date somebody for 10 minutes. There's always that person who they've got this girlfriend, they got this boyfriend, they got this significant other, and they bring them around the family and they introduce everybody. And the friend group is like, oh, yeah, man, she's a catch. Awesome. This is great. Or you go out to the bachelorette party, and the girls are just like, oh, don't let that guy get away. He's amazing. And then a week later, because of this chronic individual that we're talking about, the chronic malcontent, they're just like, oh, yeah, I had to break up with him, had to break up with her. He or she crazy. He or she too weird. He or she too clingy. He or she codependent, whatever it is, you find there's an issue with the relationship.
This is the Seinfeld syndrome.
And you're just like, but, and again, I feel comfortable in saying this because there was a decade of my life where I was just always somebody else's fault that the relationship didn't work out. And it's never like James Harden is never standing in front of a mirror and going like, all of these teams that I'm on, as the leading scorer most of the time, by the way, are not good enough to win me a championship.
Well, you remember when he was traded to the Clippers, and that was the begin. Like the end of his run in Philly was the beginning of, okay, this guy still puts up great stats. This guy still is very productive, but he's not he's not the number one guy that you might think you could build a championship team around, like the Houston years, right? That was the beginning of, oh, something's changed with James Harden. He started to lose a little bit there. He gets traded to the Clippers, and he says, and people say, okay, now he's with Kawhi. He's no longer the straw that stirs the drink, and he says, no, I am the system. You remember that quote?
That's the thing.
He's like
how do you sit James Harden down if you're Cleveland, having made this trade? How do you sit James Harden down and say, "Hey, look, man, we want you to post up out there and shoot when the ball comes to you and you're open, okay?
And distribute the ball. He's still really good at distributing the ball when he wants to.
We want you to realize that Donovan Mitchell is the guy that we are hoping will be the engine for this. You are the transmission. You're equally important. You're the drivetrain. But we need the actual horsepower for this run to be coming from someone that is not you. And he's younger than you. All right? He's more explosive than you. He's probably at this point as good of a basketball player or a better basketball player than you if you guys go one-on-one. I just need you to understand, James Harden, that we've watched you try to be the guy in 5 other places, and it hasn't got you the championship that you want, and it hasn't gotten those franchises the championship that they want. So I want you to accept this different role. One of the best things about the great teams that you have fallen in love with here locally, certainly the University of Utah basketball teams that have been great, the University of Utah football teams that have been great, one of the best things about all those teams is that there was a communication process, there was a decision-making process where coaches recognize something that players themselves probably don't, and those coaches, offensive player moving to defense, defensive player moving to offense, whatever it is, the coaches said, trust us and trust our process, and we are going to maximize this team's potential, and we are going to maximize your potential. More often than not, they got it right. There were some examples of where you get it wrong, but James Harden is at the point in his career where he's heading towards the twilight. He's got a playing style that he could play until he's 42 if he wants.
And particularly in the regular season, he makes teammates better, especially if you're a big man who can do the pick and roll really well and finish at the rim. He completely reinvented Ivica Zubac, the Clippers center. He made him into a borderline all-star player and a highly coveted starting center instead of just a really solid one, right? Like, he's still really good at those things, which is why he should be the point guard type guy next to Donovan Mitchell. But to your point, he needs to also understand, even though I'm going to have the ball in my hands a lot because I'm really good at setting my teammates up, I need to be setting Donovan Mitchell up.
Yes, and by the way, you can do that on your way to averaging, because you're James Harden, you can average 21 points, 22 points a game and actually be helping your team, elevating the ceiling of your team, which is ostensibly what the Cavs are looking for here. When you listen to smarter minds than myself, guys like Gordy Chiesa, they're just like, this is a quiet quit. This is a soft reset that the Cavs are doing.
Spence said it yesterday on his show during Crosstalk on this show too.
Yeah, when you're getting rid of a Darius Garland and you're starting to kind of strip it down and you're saying, I will take on this heavy contract that expires, and then who knows? Like, could it work out? Could Cleveland make a run? Could James Harden in the short term? Because I think that he's probably one of those guys, just like the mythical individual I was talking about with the relationships, that just falls in love fast. You know what I mean? Someone that's like, oh, the last 6 weren't perfect, but this one, this is really, really great. I'm very excited about this relationship. And then, after time, you find something not to like. You decide, this isn't great. I'm curious. I'm beyond curious. I'm fascinated to see how it works out, because I wrote off James Harden as an important piece of a championship team. A good team, certainly, but an important piece of a championship team long ago. Like 7 seasons ago, I was just like, if James Harden is a big part of your recipe, then your ingredients have gone bad. He is not going to get you where you... I decided that a long time ago. The NBA hasn't. And Gordy was like, nothing is never obvious to the oblivious. People are willfully oblivious and willfully and almost belligerently ignorant to the issues that have been now put on paper and put on film for 15 years. Right? Yeah, he's been in the league since 2009.
Yeah. So
17 years.
Yeah, for 17 years. And we just got a good response to your tweet about this Harden actually elevate the Cavs ceiling. This guy, Alan Show on Twitter, says James Harden's still better than Garland, but Donovan will have to deliver in the playoffs where Harden has struggled historically. Here's the problem with that. We said that when he went to Brooklyn. Like, well, yeah, it's a good thing he has Kevin Durant because he struggles in the playoffs. That didn't work out. He was also injured.
Can you imagine paying someone $50+ million with the expectation that when it really matters, when we're in the playoffs, I need somebody else to deliver?
Yeah, it doesn't just stop there. Oh, he's going to Philadelphia. Good thing he's got Joel Embiid, who, yes, he's had his struggles in the playoffs too, but not like James Harden. And well, that didn't work out. Okay, well, it's good that he's going to the Clippers. Good thing he's got Kawhi Leonard, and of course Kawhi's been injured a lot as part of the reason why it hasn't worked out. But
has he,
also,
though? Or is he just has he?
He's aspired to be injured. But
or
also,
is Kawhi just playing the all money, all business? Like,
yeah.
Kawhi someday will be teaching a course at the Harvard MBA school about how you can get a guaranteed salary and you can load manage your way into an extra 5 years in the NBA.
Yeah. So, but that aside, that also didn't work out. It failed in spectacular fashion. So at what point, like, I respect that, I don't disagree with the whole comment from our guy Alan on Twitter, but at what point do we in particular front offices realize, no, it's never going to work out with James Harden. No, you could put, like, you're saying the same thing about Donovan Mitchell that you said about Kevin Durant, that you said about Joel Embiid, that you said about Kawhi Leonard. All those guys, way better basketball players than Donovan Mitchell, respectfully. And now you're saying, oh yeah, it's going to work this time. No, it's not going to work this time. And I agree with what Spence said yesterday on this show and his show, that this is probably more of an indication that the Cavs are ready to tear this thing down and that Donovan Mitchell is on his way out than it is that they're re-upping for another chance at a title.
You look at it, you scratch your head about it, you wonder whether or not the sixth time, the seventh time is the charm, because that's what talent does, right? This is what, and I hate to keep going back to like the relationship analogies because some people hate those, but it's the best example. It's kind of like, wasn't Elizabeth Taylor married like 7 times or something, the old movie star? It's never like the good personality Uggo that gets married 4 times.
Yeah, I just Googled Elizabeth Taylor marriages, and it's like a bunch of pictures of old guys. So yeah, I don't know if it's 7, but it's she was married a lot of times.
That's talent, which in the romantic world is basically just handsomeness or beauty. It makes people forget a lot of other things or ignore a lot of other things. And James Harden has that. And look, we know this is true in every single sport. We've seen this with problem children, problem kids in high school sports, in college sports, moving from college to pro sports. All these guys that are just like, oh man, dude's got like a bunch of arrests, a bunch of issues, but look how fast he is. We can get him to come here, and we can get him to behave. And to be fair to James Harden, that's not what we're talking about with James Harden.
Yeah, he does not get in trouble off the court, which that's a good thing. He's like a Kyrie Irving, same kind of way. Not a guy who gets in trouble off the court, but he eventually wears everybody down around him, and he ends up being a detriment to winning.
You know what else is really fascinating to me is like Draymond Green has such a different career from James Harden, where James Harden has been the number 1 guy now on like 5 different teams at certain times. Been at least the number 1 guy.
Or like 1A number
1A,
strong
1B.
2 sidekick kind of guy the last few years. But
He's been a big time
point
guy.
still stands.
Really, it's 4. He was never the number 1 guy for OKC when he started things out. So
Yeah.
like, he's been the number 1 guy. He wasn't even the number 2 guy there. He was the 6th guy and won the award for 6th man of the year.
3rd best player, 6th man. Yeah.
But in any case, James Harden's career is going to be potentially, when it's all said and done, if it doesn't work out with the Cavs, spoiler alert, it's not gonna. We're going to talk about him as one of the best individual players who never really helped his team achieve ultimate greatness. We're going to, and we'll have seen it with a bunch of different squads and a bunch of different experiments, and we're going to have to look at it and say, James Harden was part of the problem, even as they were saying he needs to be the solution. He was also part of the problem, whether it's just because his contract was too big or anything else. I'm not saying he's not an excellent basketball player. He is. There's a difference between being an excellent basketball player, an excellent football player, an excellent baseball player, and being a championship level, any one of those things. And finding that difference is something that I'm not capable of, that most GMs aren't even capable of, that most owners and coaches have a hard time being capable of. But you compare like a James Harden who wears on people and wears on the franchise eventually, and they decide to move on, to like a Draymond Green, who Draymond Green has never been the best player on his team, has never even been in the argument for being the best player on his team. He's always been the third best player on the team.
In his own mind, he's probably been the number 2 player on the team.
In his own mind, he is incorrect. All right?
But yeah,
And you're absolutely right.
that hasn't gotten in the way, though. That's what's remarkable.
But
about
what's wild with Draymond Green is Draymond Green, when it's all said and done, is going to be sitting back there with a bunch of championship rings and a couple $100 million and a high-performing podcast because he's controversial enough to say things that make people listen to him, and he's intelligent enough to make people want to respond to what he has to say. And James Harden is going to be looking at it and going, I am a much better basketball player than that guy. We have similar personalities that are exhausting, but I'm a better basketball player than him. Very different basketball player, but you make the list, and James Harden is going to go higher on the list of best basketball players in the history of the NBA than Draymond Green. And he's going to look at it and he's going to say, that guy is also obnoxious. That guy also wears on people. That guy punched a teammate in the face, for hell's sake. That guy got fined however many times for excessive technical fouls. That guy is a far bigger problem than me, but he has all these championships. Why didn't it work out for me? Do you know how painful that's going to be for James Harden when he does it? When he looks back and he assesses, and you don't, if you're James Harden, you don't compare yourself to guys that were like 10th dude on the bench that somehow managed their way into a ring by being a 4-point per game type reserve on a championship team. James Harden's going to be comparing himself to his contemporaries that got multiple championships probably, and at least one championship, and were leaders on teams and big-time players in franchises. And he's going to look at somebody like Draymond Green, who has similar personality traits, exhausting to be around, and people, the Warriors probably wanted to unload Draymond Green several times, but because of the leadership there, because of who the teammates were, and because of the fact that even Draymond bleeping Green accepted the role that he was given.
I can be a head case, but also defer to the better players on my team. It's a remarkable thing that Draymond's able to figure out.
I mean, he is one of the most interesting guys, and he's one of those players that if he's your guy, you love him. If he's not your guy, you hate him. And even when he is your guy, you probably hate him sometimes.
You cringe at some of the stuff he does. Yeah.
But goodness, even Draymond Green, and I got a big ego. I promise you Draymond Green's ego is outsized even relative to other professional athletes. He still found a way to accept the coaching, to accept the role he was given, to accept the fact that, you know what? When we're down 2 and we need a three-pointer with 4 seconds left, I'm not the right guy to take it unless I am wide open and Clay or Steph or whomever has created that shot for me, and this is the last resort.
Yeah, there's no other option.
Even Draymond accepted that, and James Harden seems to just have a hard time. And he's probably going to get to the point when it's all said and done. He's going to get to the point in his career and be like, look at these numbers, look how great I was, look how much money I made, and all those things are great. And he's going to be a Hall of Fame basketball player. But he's also going to have that asterisk, that manufactured asterisk by those of us in the sports media world that are just like, yeah, but where did you go in the playoffs when it mattered? What happened to you there?
Not a winning player. And that's harsh to say that about a guy as talented as he is, and he's had some big playoff performances, but just not enough of them.
It's almost better to just be an average player than to be a great player who can't win when it matters.
Yeah, to localize this, Karl Malone was plagued by this. This was the label that he was given to, and I'm sure there was a segment of the Jazz fan base that bought into that too, but particularly everywhere outside of Utah, they're like, Karl Malone, there's a reason why the Jazz keep falling short, because that guy falls short individually when the moment's biggest.
And I get it. We're talking about an elevated comparison because James Harden has played himself into a stratosphere where he doesn't get compared to Darius Garland.
Yeah.
He gets compared to Shaq and Kobe and Steph and LeBron and Kawhi and some of these guys that were his contemporaries who won championships and who we say were the driving force behind those championships. So even to be in that conversation is an honor by itself, but the asterisk that goes with being someone who cannot win, never does get a chance to win, and for it to be, in a lot of people's minds, your fault, that's a tough thing. Is he going to do it with the Cavs? Can he and Donovan Mitchell coexist? I think there were a lot of people that thought that Jimmy Butler was, because of what happened in Miami, Jimmy Butler was probably not long for the rest of the NBA. If you can't make it work there, how's it going to be? He's found a way. If he was healthy, we'd be having a much different conversation about Jimmy Butler. He's found a way to coexist even with one of the most volatile personalities in the NBA in Draymond Green.
For now. So always give it about 4 to 5 years with Jimmy. If he has that much time left in his career, he's getting up there.
I heard the Dan Patrick show today, and I got in the car to take my daughter to school, and they were talking about Draymond being put on the Spurs.
Yeah, the Warriors are taking calls about Draymond Green right now. It was presumed at first that maybe he's in a package to bring Giannis, but now I don't know who they would bring back. Maybe the Spurs would be a third team, maybe in the Giannis.
But I was thinking of Victor Wembanyama obviously and Steph Castle, and I'm just like, what? That feels disastrous.
It could. Here's the thing: if he buys in the way he bought in enough at Golden State, it could end up being a coup for the Spurs to get a guy like that. But then
maybe I'm not giving Draymond enough credit. Maybe Draymond is like, yeah, man, I know what my lane is in the NBA, and I'm going to stay in that lane. And maybe I'm not giving him the credit he deserves. Or maybe because of what I think I know about his personality, it would be a lot harder for him to embrace that role of like the tertiary player
on when there's younger superstars. Yeah,
where it's just like this kid barely learned that he could vote. You know what I mean? Like these guys are so young.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to have a problem deferring to Wemby because the talent's obvious. It's obvious that guy's the best player on the floor at just about any game he plays, right? Even to someone like Draymond Green. I think where you might have problems with that is when Stephon Castle, who has become a really good number 2, and De'Aaron Fox, 2 and 3 to Wemby on the Spurs, when those guys are like, hey, Draymond, like, we're bigger stars than you two on this team. Like, we're better talents than you two, and like we need that deference too on the court. And maybe that's going to be something that sets Draymond off and like, okay, I can't deal with this. But we'll see if that ends up happening.
I didn't mean to spend 28 minutes on James Harden and Draymond
James
Green.
Harden.
Well, and it probably sounded more like I was bashing him than anything else.
It's fair. Like you weren't unfair.
I just don't I don't understand if this move is really being sold by the Clippers to their roster right now is like, hey, he can make us better. He can get us over the hump. How that should be received by Donovan Mitchell. Even though Donovan Mitchell's marriage with the Utah Jazz ended in a way that a lot of people don't like, I remain a big fan of Donovan Mitchell. I think that he's a really interesting guy that carries himself with a certain amount of integrity, whether you agree with him or not. I like Donovan Mitchell, and I want to see Donovan Mitchell have success in his career because when he was a part of this community, he felt embraced by this community, he gave back a ton, and he was like really in the thick of it in a way that all of your other favorite players that ever came through here were not. Like Karl Malone,
including those guys with statues.
Karl Malone and John Stockton especially, they did not want to go to high school. They were different stages of life and had kids and things like that, but they weren't going to high school basketball games, and they weren't doing like they weren't
going out of their way to
They weren't endearing themselves
engaged with the community.
to the community, right? So I still give Donovan Mitchell a lot of credit for that, even if it's soured at the end. And if you're him and your coach or your general manager picks up the phone and is just like, hey, we're sending Darius away and we're bringing in James Harden because we think James Harden can get you to the next level. I'm probably looking at it and going, well, James Harden is one hell of a player. I don't like going against him, so it's better to have him as a friend than an enemy. But also, we have a 17-year sample size where James has not gotten people like me over the hump. So why is this being sold to me that way? Maybe they didn't, though. Maybe they said, Donovan, we're going to strip this thing down. We know that you're riding it out until the end of your contract, and this is a salary dump situation. So here's what we're doing.
And by the way, because part of this is what you just mentioned, potentially stripping this down and expecting Donovan to opt out of his final year of his contract and sign somewhere else, Donovan Mitchell's kind of in danger of being that guy who isn't content enough where he is, right? Like he's early enough in his career that if he just commits to a place and buys in, and as long as that organization is a good organization and putting a great team around him, putting a great coach in place. If he just is like every 3 or 4 years I'm going someplace else, he might be looking around at the end of his career and going, hey, I look a lot like James Harden when I look in the mirror too. So he's not there yet, but just put something out there. Hey man, like maybe you should be looking for reasons to be content instead of always looking for greener grass.
All right, got to take a break here. Again, we're going to try to get Chad Brown. He's in a flight delay situation, so we'll do what we can there. The Utah Jazz trade, we're going to react a little bit more to that. And I put a poll question out there about the timeline, because yesterday I spent plenty of minutes telling you that the timeline has changed now, but instead of telling you, I want to ask you, how much has the timeline changed in your mind? The Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 792.1 FM. Utah Jazz completed a blockbuster trade yesterday. We talked about it at length. Right after Gordy Chiesa signed off with us. Gordy, by the way, will be on with Porter Larson tomorrow on trade deadline day, helping break down not only this that the Utah Jazz have done, but what else might happen in and around the league, including the thing that we just spent 25 minutes on, the James Harden trade. James Harden to the Cavs. Darius Garland is heading back in return. And what a pick as well.
Yeah, they just to put a bow, I guess, on what we talked about before. The Clippers had to attach a pick to the deal that would send a no doubt about it Hall of Famer who is averaging 25 points and 8 assists a game. Like, that should tell you all you need to know about whether or not James Harden is as valuable as he looks like.
That's actually somewhat wild that has not been talked about enough. But
moving on from that, for the Utah Jazz,
the timeline acceleration, I want to make it clear, for Austin Ainge, for Danny Ainge, for Ryan Smith, for everyone who is involved in the decision-making process, to use 3 first-round picks and some promising young players, some not so promising young players, to get the package that they got, with the headliner, of course, being Jaren Jackson III, Jr., the third, to quote Dan Patrick.
Old Dan Patrick style.
We got to decide, by the way, are we calling him Triple J?
That's
JJJ?
That is what he's called, Triple J, if not Jaren Jackson.
So we'll call him Triple J for the most part.
How about the 3 J's? Shout out to the 90s Mavs.
Trey J? We call him Trey J?
Trey J. He shoots it from 3 too. I like Trey J.
Okay, Trey J.
That's the Sean O'Connell Show nickname.
When we get Trey J on, we'll ask him how he feels about the nickname Trey J.
I don't know if anyone else has called him that before. Maybe some growing up. I don't know.
Trey J that's what we're going to do.
That's our guy.
Okay,
Trey
in any
J.
case, this trade, I respect the hell out of it, because whether you think that you wanted to see that 2031 first-round draft pick instead, or more pointedly, the 2027 picks instead, it's a response, and I don't think it's a response to external pressures, because people in those positions don't have to feel pressure from us, right? But I think it's a response to probably internal pressures from maybe Lauri Markkanen. Certainly, I would imagine Will Hardy, who has gotten sick of coaching this team as it stands with their defensive malaise.
Well, and just to add to this, it was in the reporting, it said, quote, this was done also at the behest of Ryan Smith. So talk about the highest of internal pressure.
And by the way, his commitment to competing can't be questioned. Now, you can say things that you don't like about any billionaire, and certainly about a billionaire sports owner who wants public funds and things like that. Those are political discussions. From a Ryan Smith, do you want to win and bring winning to Utah standpoint, that's an absolute yes. He has proven that. He continues to prove that. The investment in the practice facilities going in at Southtown, all of this stuff is a testament to what they are doing. And do I think he's doing it purely out of the goodness of his heart? No, he's a businessman. But most of us in a professional capacity don't do things out of the goodness of our hearts. So I'm bought in on especially this. And if your owner recognizes, like, you know what, I don't want to own a team that is in a perpetual rebuild, or that is that even in a protracted, elongated rebuild. I don't want to own that team. Do we have draft capital that we can deploy to our benefit right now? Do we have roster space and players on this roster that can bring us back something good? I was listening to the radio broadcast for the Utah Jazz last night, and David Locke, love him or hate him, is dialed in on all things NBA. And Jaren Jackson Jr., coming into the season, was rated by a lot of the NBA publications in their top 100 as a top 25, top 30 player. How many top 25 or top 30 players are available on the market right now? or in this trade deadline, it's Giannis, apparently Triple J,
Trey J. And James Harden is still in that category.
James Harden, and I guess maybe Draymond Green. Right?
I think he's probably lower than 30, but yeah, we can include him.
Well, I feel
he's
like
still a big enough name. Yeah, and he still affects winning that you can include him in.
Whether you put him in the conversation or not, the list of individuals that are that good relative to NBA competition that are also gettable, it's a short list. It's a tiny list. Yeah. It is a list that only 3 or 4 or maybe at the most 5 teams get to shop on. And the Utah Jazz had this opportunity, and he's a player that, again, we'll see what happens with the Walker Kessler contract, but you hear basketball folks salivating at the idea of a massive front court that has Lowry at the 3 and Walker Kessler healthy and Trey J playing the 4.
3 guys who are big enough to be centers, right? Playing at the same time.
And as we talked about with Spence yesterday, one of those guys being someone that can be a perimeter defender as well. One of those guys that, as a former defensive player of the year, can set a tone that you have not had yet set for your young roster, right? So how quickly does the acceleration process happen of your expectations as a fan? I put the question out there. Big trade from yesterday. When will the Utah Jazz make the playoffs? And if I had asked this question prior to the trade yesterday, there's not a person among you that would have said next year. There's not one individual out there that would have said, yes, I'm confident the Utah Jazz are going to be a playoff team next year.
And never probably would have won. That's one of the choices you put on there. That's
64% of people are now like, we're making the playoffs next year. If you're the owner, and if this was done at your behest, you behested correctly. Because what you have done is you have re-energized, reinvigorated, recaptivated a fan base that was on the very brink of apathy. You had given them another product that they like as much or better with the Utah Mammoth. The shiny things over here, let's pay attention to that now. And then you're like, wait, basketball's my first love. And I've got this pile of draft cash sitting over here that I can make everyone else feel that way again too, potentially, if we make the right move here. And you know what? I hired these people that I think are really good at making the right moves. So I'm going to tell those people, I envision it like Ryan Smith has a mountain blue bat phone and a purple bat phone in his office, in his car, in his plane, in his helicopter. That's what I would be if I was in his shoes. I would have my hockey team bat phone, and I would have my basketball team bat phone, and I envision him probably sitting on the private jet talking to his wife and be like, hey, we got to get back to town so that we can watch the Jazz play against the Warriors. And his wife saying something like, yeah, I want to watch Steph. Ooh. And being like, oh, man, don't you want to watch our Jazz? Oh, yeah, the Jazz too.
Don't you think Lauri Markkanen's as big or a bigger star than Steph Curry?
What I envision is him having a moment where he's just like, you know what? Like maybe he's got that high school buddy.
It's time.
He's got that high school friend that's like a surfing instructor in Newport Beach or something. It's just like, man, I haven't watched a Jazz game in 10 years. You guys stink. Can tell him what he really feels. Tell it like it is.
I'm a Lakers fan now.
Doesn't affect the relationship. And it's for sure not a guy that he respects in any other capacity other than his Jazz fandom, right? It's for sure not a guy who's like his business colleague. It's just some like random dude, probably doesn't have any kids, is like, you know, Van Wilder. He's maybe still in college for the 27th consecutive year. It's just like, dude, I stopped caring about the Jazz 10 years ago. And I think that Ryan Smith got enough of that whatever the straw was that broke the camel's back, he's like, dude, you know what? Not on my watch. Not anymore. We need to make people care about this Utah Jazz team. And credit to the Angels and credit to whether it works out or not, in February of 2026, we are now back to talking about, wondering about, thinking about the Utah Jazz. There was no chance, if you didn't move at the trade deadline, that I was saying anything about this team for the rest of the season other than, did they stink bad enough to keep the pick? Oh, yes, they did. Yay!
Which they still got to do, by the way.
Which they're going to do, by the way.
I'm still nervous about
James,
it.
you cannot. No,
I'm nervous about it.
James,
okay,
don't be nervous about it. You cannot be nervous about it. Stop,
well,
James.
They're already almost too good to be. By the way, they beat the Pacers last night. So they're already almost too good without Trey J. To keep that pick, and now and I know he's not going to play. He will have to play some. Now they're much better because they have Trey J. Like they may end up with the sixth or seventh or eighth worst record, but they might just. What I'm nervous about is not them not losing enough to be in position to keep it. What I'm nervous about is that they're not going to lose quite enough to be guaranteed to keep it.
Sure. And
they could end up the 10th pick, and that's OKC's pick if they finish 6th or 7th worst record. That's what I'm nervous about.
I'm a full believer, all the way bought in believer, that what's going to happen is you will not see. This is the unfortunate part of the trade. I think you're not going to see Trey J and Lowry and Keontae on the floor together probably more than 3 times the rest of the year.
I guarantee you won't see Walker Kessler on the floor with them together.
I can guarantee you that the 3 trees
that's big, okay?
That the redwood forest growing in Salt Lake City will not be planted this year.
We got to come up with a big 3 nickname for them too. That's our next task.
Yeah,
something forest. I like it.
Can we play it? Can we play it with like Trey J?
Trey J National.
We'll
Forest.
workshop it. 877-353-0700. Your nickname for an eventual, we hope, Walker Kessler, Triple J, Trey J, and Lowry Markkanen front court. In any case, give credit where it's due. If you want to criticize the regime, fine, but there was a recognition that shows that this ownership group is far more in touch with its fan base than a lot of ownership groups are. Because there are plenty of New York Jets, New York Knicks type ownership groups out there that are just like, are we profitable? Cool. What's that? You don't want the Oakland A's to leave Oakland? Don't care. This is my team, and I get the money from whatever happens, so deal with it. Like, that's not what you've got. You've got a leadership group, whether you want to give it to Will Hardy or you want to give it to Austin Ainge or you want to give it to Ryan Smith or you want to distribute it evenly, you got a leadership group that is like, dude, we can make this happen, so we have to make this happen. What Keontae has shown us, what Ace has shown us this year so far has been impressive enough that it's time to take a swing. And guess what? A fan base, especially like the one of the hardcore blue-collar folks of Salt Lake City, I say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek, respect a swing and a miss far more than waiting in the batter's box and earning that backwards K. It's the last thing anybody wants. Well, let's just see what happens with the draft that's coming in 2029. Got a great pick there. Please don't. Please make things like this happen. And the most intriguing part of this, a lot of people in the know say that the Utah Jazz are not done before tomorrow. I don't know what else that means. I don't know what else that looks like. I guess it could be a Lowry Markkanen move, which would nullify everything else we've been saying today, but it doesn't feel like
unless you get Giannis back, baby. No, that's not.
What if Trey J ends up being part of a package that brings Giannis to the Utah Jazz?
And what if the Jazz be the first team to come from 10th place, bottom of the play-in, to win the NBA championship?
It feels likely. Feels like that's what's going to happen.
You can keep that first-round pick if that happens. Okay.
64% of the votes right now at Real OC Sports coming in on the Jazz will make the playoffs next season. 13% say it's 27-28, the season after next. 6.1% say it's 28-29, and 17% say the Jazz are never making the playoffs.
Yeah, is it a higher number than I would have expected? Salty Jazz fans out
So that's the 17% that refuse to re-engage, that are not falling for your flirtatiousness, Ryan Smith,
Could that
Austin Ainge.
Could those also be spurned Utes fans who don't like that Ryan Smith likes BYU too? I don't know. There's a lot of those that have sworn off the Jazz because of that.
It's just that group of 100 angry Ute fans that ruin every Twitter discussion. I don't think so. All right, lots left to get to here on the Sean O'Connell Show. We got Eric Weddle joining us at noon. We got more to talk about here in hour number 1. Don't go anywhere. Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. What's that? You thought that all the blockbuster trades in the NBA were either yesterday or tomorrow? You're wrong. Here in the hot lunch, things have heated up. This is like grilled cheese sandwich and tomato soup level of hot. Another big trade, a massive trade, in fact. Very few NBA trades involve future Hall of Fame players, but the Dallas Mavericks are trading 10-time NBA All-Star Anthony Davis, Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, and Dante Exum, former Jazz man, to the Washington Wizards for Chris Middleton, A.J. Johnson, Malachi Branham, Marvin Bagley III, 2 first-round picks, and 3 second-rounders. That is a big-time trade.
For those scoring at home, that is 8 players involved in this trade, which is just a bananas number.
That's 8 current players and 13 total when you talk about what those picks will translate to.
Yeah.
Wowza. That is 2 full starting lineups and a couple of reserves, swapping things around.
So, is this a blockbuster trade, and James Harden also a blockbuster trade, or is this more like a Hollywood video trade?
No, this is exactly a blockbuster trade because Blockbuster has gone the way of the dodo, and both Anthony Davis and James Harden make sure that your championship hopes go that same direction.
Yeah, and Anthony Davis, not for the same reasons, right? He's not a head case. He's actually a guy that works really well with his teammates. His nickname's Street Clothes for a reason.
He cannot stay healthy.
Yeah.
And, that's actually a good poll question. Maybe we should save it for another day. What would you rather be? The guy who is great but a head case, or the guy who's not a head case and great but can't stay healthy?
I mean, everyone will always give you the benefit of the doubt because of your potential if you're the guy who just couldn't get injured, or who couldn't stay healthy, who could always get injured. Like that, everyone will be talking about Anthony Davis like, oh my gosh, if he'd have stayed healthy, he'd be top 5 player all time, right? And we will not be saying that about James Harden because it's like the guy was healthy and he showed us he couldn't deliver. I think I'd rather be the guy. Obviously, it sucks in the moment, but long term, I think I would rather be the guy that everyone's like always giving the benefit of the doubt than the guy who, no, you don't get any benefit.
Shams is also breaking this news. Philadelphia 76ers are trading Jared McCain. Oh, never mind. Not a blockbuster.
That one's your local video store.
That's
what's an old in Salt Lake only video store or Sandy that you grew up
with? I'll give you an even better one, okay? Boone Brothers Video. Boone Brothers.
Okay.
I never experienced this, but anyone who grew up in southern central Utah who was around, especially the football world, the Boone Brothers, right? Like Jesse Boone, Aaron Boone, who ended up playing at Kentucky, Jason Boone. They're phenomenal athletes, awesome dudes, right? Football team captains at the University of Utah in the case of Jesse and Jason. They had a legendary video rental service where they would charge their friends to borrow videos from them.
Oh, so they had their own.
They had their own Boone Brothers Video, like
from their own home.
Yeah, like from their own home movie collection. And apparently, so the stories goes, like $1 a day. And this was not one of those things.
They ended up getting busted for this.
It was not one of those things where they were like, "Hey, we're friends. It doesn't matter. Like, just bring it back." It was like, "Dude, you've had it for 6 days. Give me $6." Like, which makes sense because they're all very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
Like every one of them is like in business for
Sounds
himself.
a lot like the Great Brain.
Boone Brothers Video, man. I heard many a story about it. We crack jokes about it with the old guys all the time.
Boone Brothers Video.
So
I have not heard that.
That's this level of trade. Yeah. Shout out to the Boone Brothers. Hopefully you're listening and having a good time.
Hopefully they bought some Netflix stock or something.
They probably
they're still in the video rental business somehow.
And at the cutting edge of it. You know what I mean? Like they were enterprising as 17-year-olds in the rental space, video rental space. Pretty cool. So the trades keep rolling in. Now, this is interesting. So James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Mobley, etc. in Cleveland. Anthony Davis, let's pretend that he's going to stay healthy.
Sure. Yeah. For the
Anthony
exercise.
Davis, now with Trae Young, who kind of quietly ended up on the Wizards a week ago.
He was Yeah, weeks ago, really, but like well before the trade deadline.
Right.
First trade of this season.
So now Anthony Davis and Trae Young are on the same team together. You're like, oh, okay, all right.
There's a little something.
Alex Sarr, who's number 2 pick or number 1 pick?
Number 2 pick. He's had a decent start to his career.
Keyshawn George, Trey Johnson, Bilal Coulibaly. There's like a non-zero level of talent now residing in Washington.
Same level of Browns Super Bowl chances, talent. Non-zero. A little bit higher level. Seems like.
Okay.
If Anthony Davis, if the brow can stay out of his street clothes.
What if Anthony Davis found that he discovered late in his career that if he just shaves the unibrow, it changes the feng shui of his entire body, and now he's able to stay healthy? What if that happens?
Is there an excess of electromagnetic frequencies in his unibrow?
You don't
Is that
know.
what's going on?
There might be. What if that's the thing that's been holding him back all these years?
Be hilarious.
And he discovers it late, and it's like, you shave the unibrow, you never get injured again. He's going to go back and just be like, you know how many people told me I should shave this thing from the time I was like 11? And I always said no. Sometimes you got to listen to advice, Anthony.
Yeah, it's like a reverse Samson. Like, shave, take out the hair, and you'll be great. A little small soul patch size.
At this point, wouldn't you be trying everything?
Yeah.
Just wax it. Give it a little bit longer to grow back.
Start calling yourself the Wax.
All right, we're going to take a break here. Eric Weddle is going to join us next to preview the Super Bowl that, of course, is happening this weekend, and you can hear it right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Well, welcome to hour number 2 of the Sean O'Connell Show on a Wednesday. Welcome in the Utah football legend, the NFL football legend, the head coach of the Rancho Bernardo Broncos, Eric Weddle. E-Dub, hello.
What's up, my brother?
How you living, man? Wednesday instead of Thursday. We normally know what your Thursday routine is. What is your Wednesday routine?
Well, I woke up early, 6 a.m., got my workout in, came back about 8-ish, and got the kids that late start on Wednesday, so they weren't even up yet. Took us over to school. The other kids had dentist appointments, had the DirecTV guy come on over, pick some boxes, and then we got a little leadership meeting with the leaders on our team once a week. We just started doing, and that's at 12 o'clock. So then I got fourth period football at 2:20. So let's be great.
What does the leadership meeting entail? What are you covering for these young men in that situation?
So we go throughout the off season. We have teams. We get leaders. They draft their teams, and then they compete over about 7 or 8 weeks. And during those weeks, every Wednesday, we meet with those leaders and teach them about leadership and what that looks like, and those characteristics, and how to be a great listener, how to serve, how to be, have humility, and those things, and to ask them how their teams are doing, how the communication is going. Are you there for your teammates? Those type of things. And then over the course of the off season, you get roughly about 20 kids that go through this program, and hopefully they carry those characteristics and those things that you learn to be a good leader and a good man and a good husband and father one day, and then hopefully they'll remember it.
We've been talking about the NBA trades that are happening, and obviously the NBA and the NFL are a little bit different, but it's pro sports
Has LeBron been traded yet?
No, LeBron has not been traded. He's not going to be traded. Yeah, hey, there's always a spot on the Utah Jazz fan bandwagon for you. We're keeping the seat warm for you since you refuse to support your Lakers right now.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, do people still watch basketball?
Dude, don't. Yeah, the NBA is a lot of fun right now, actually.
I'm being totally honest and candid right now. Do people watch basketball as much as they watched the Pro Bowl last night? Did anybody know that the Pro Bowl was even happening?
Okay. Well, I have a question for you about that, but we'll just go there right now, so you're not spending the whole conversation hating on the NBA. How do you fix the Pro Bowl? A Tuesday night flag football game is embarrassing. Now, I was lucky enough to be invited to some of your participation in the Pro Bowl, and those are fun weeks, and you made it great for all of us. I understand that a lot of people, like, the game itself is not necessarily the best showcase of all-star talent, but what you were doing is a heck of a lot better than what they're doing now. So instead of making you the head coach of the Rancho Bernardo Broncos, I put you in the NFL front office, and I say, your job is to now fix the Pro Bowl, fix our all-star weekend. How do you do it?
You get rid of it. The fact that you're having the 12th best player representing the Pro Bowl is just a mockery at this point, and it really stood for something much more meaningful. And we always knew, like, to be recognized as an all-pro was like the tip, right, of the mountain. Like, that's what you were trying to get. But being a Pro Bowl there was a lot of merit in that, and you took it serious when you voted on the players from the players' standpoint, the coaches. But when the fan aspect got into it, and they got a third of the vote or more than that now, I don't even know, it just dilutes who really deserves to be in the Pro Bowl. And the fact that they don't even play, and it's a meaningless, it's just embarrassing if I'm being honest. So I would get rid of it. I'd honor the guys that are real Pro Bowlers, and that's it.
Well, that's a little anticlimactic, but it feels like that might be the direction that the game is headed.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we're not going to play a real game, and if guys are really worried about it, then why worry about getting injured? Like, to play in a game, you know, my first few years in the Pro Bowl, I took it very serious. I was hitting people. I was tackling you know, that's just the way it was. And then towards the end, it got a little out of character of what the game was. And if the players don't want to play it, just get rid of it. Why are we going to continue to hold on to something that is just not a good product? And nobody despises flag football and 7-on-7 more than myself. So I'm sure a lot of people are in the same boat.
Does that hold true even with coaching? Because obviously, you know, there's a lot of these 7-on-7 tournaments, these skills competitions that young guys use to get more exposure in the recruiting game and whatnot. Do you despise the 7-on-7 for your high school kids?
Listen, I'm never going to tell a kid not to go try to get better at their craft, right? Like, I think there's some merit to the receivers and the quarterback, especially if it's the quarterback you're playing with, to get timing and throwing in contested windows. But the whole dynamics of the 7-9-7 theme and these coaches and programs is stealing money from these kids and acting as if it has any power on getting scholarships, and coaches looking at it like it doesn't, and it just creates bad culture. It creates a me type attitude instead of about the team. It creates an environment that you usually have to break when your kids come back to high school. And I am so happy that Gage isn't doing it this off season, and he's just working and training and doing things that'll actually make him better in real football. And I couldn't be more happy about it.
Eric Weddle is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking all things football. We'll turn our focus now to the Super Bowl. I know we touched on it last week when we knew what the matchup was, and the money and the spread is favoring heavily the Seattle Seahawks team. What will the Patriots have to do to pull off an upset here? Like, how can you engineer that against a prohibitive favorite going in the Super Bowl?
Well, I mean, is it 4 points? 4 points, anywhere from 5 to 4. Yeah, they're the underdog, but that's really like, you know, anything at 3 or under an initial site is like a toss-up, I guess, or that's what people say. Maybe a home field advantage, but there won't be. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of distractions going on with Seattle right now, with the coaches and with Kubiak and getting his staff ready and having those conversations behind closed doors, and you're kind of wheeling and dealing, you know, because we just saw it with Utah, you know, like those conversations during Bull Week. You know, who's staying, who's going, are you coming with me, are you staying? Like, Morgan doesn't know, and then everyone leaves right after the game. So really, is the focus on the Super Bowl. Like, I keep saying this, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Every second that is not focused on the Super Bowl, which these coaches that are taking jobs elsewhere, you are thinking about something else, will have an impact. Now, will that impact be enough to sway the game? I'm hoping not, because for the players' sake, but you got to think it's going to have an impact. And so who does that favor? It favors New England. You know they're locked and loaded. You know they're going to be prepared. You know they're going to have every scenario gone over, the halftime, the 2.5 minutes between every possession, having those timeouts. Like, there's just so much time wasted in a Super Bowl that if you don't really have a plan for it or have experience doing it, it could have an impact. So now on the field, as a longer answer, they just have to play their style of football, play great defense, take care of the football. When they get their shots in the red zone, you got to score touchdowns. And I know for a fact when it's fourth and a long yard, they'll probably take a field goal, and that may be the difference in winning the Super Bowl or not.
What do you do with Jackson Smith and Jigba? If the Patriots call Eric Weddle and say, hey, how do we shut this guy down? How do you do it?
Well, it's always easier said than done, you know, like, oh, we're just going to double them every time, and no matter what the call is, and like, that's just not reality. Like, when you bring 5, when you bring 6, therefore, there is no help available, right? Any coverage calls, if you're playing single high, like, you're always mindful of that, right? And so, but I will say that any single high coverage, I'm putting the safety on the hash, right? I'm shading to that side to make sure that corner knows that he can play the low hip, and any go balls up the sideline, like, I'm going to be there for him. Any 2-man, any 4 or 6s, we are doubling him in coverage concepts. But when I bring pressure, you just got to own up to it and understand I'm making everybody else beat. Okay, I'm not letting Smith Jigba catch 10 balls for 150 against us. I'm making them run the ball, and I'm making Cooper Kupp and these other guys beat me, which I think if I know New England, they're going to have a great plan for them, and I wouldn't be surprised if they have a hard time getting in the ball in the Super Bowl.
Is Christian Gonzalez the defensive equal for Jackson Smith and Jigba's offensive threat?
Well, there's two things two ideas to that. Do you put Gonzalez on him and make sure you have your best on their best and live with what happens, or do you put him on second and leave your second corner and the safety over there, and then now you say, hey, we love the idea of Gonzalez locking down their next best option. We doubled Smith Jigba, and now they're going at the number 3 guy who's their number 3. So that's just the game within the game. How do you want to play that? Do you only put them on? Do you have that matchup when you're blitzing? All right, when you know there's no help available, but then the quarterback knows that. So you got to mix and match the coverages. So I don't know. That's what they got to do, and it'll be interesting to see how they play that out. But he definitely is capable of matching them up and handling that business.
If you go back to ancient history when you were a corner that the coaches would make that decision about, did you want to have it be your job, or would you rather do what you said, the second option, where let's put 2 on that guy and I'll lock down the second best, because I'll make sure number 2 doesn't get anything today, and we'll do 2-on-1 against their number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like as a competitor, you want to go out and be best on best, right? And prove yourself, and prove that you can handle that job. But if you're thinking about what's best and the best way to win, I think it may be the other side, where this guy that I know I can have my way with, and he's not going to get a sniff. Like, maybe that's the best way. I think ultimately, whatever in this game, it doesn't matter what I want. It's really whatever's the best chance to win this game, because we may not ever get back here.
For Sam Darnold, we talked about this a little bit last week. For Sam Darnold to have been embattled in his previous stops and to now be on the precipice of a Super Bowl, it comes with a certain amount of pressure, right? He helped the Vikings improve drastically, but then kind of choked when it mattered, and I think that's part of the reason why he ended up in Seattle. If he can get this Super Bowl victory, are we going to completely change the narrative around him because of how we do things with quarterbacks, or are we going to say, well, he won a Super Bowl like, Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson won Super Bowls. This defense is the reason.
The defense wasn't the reason they won last week. So they threw for 350 and three tubbies. I think the perception on any quarterback that wins the Super Bowl changes dramatically regardless of how your career was up until that point. I think if he wins it and I mean, who knows where his career is going to skyrocket from here? To be a Super Bowl winning quarterback, potentially an MVP of the game. What he's done for this season, like, yeah, he's had some turnovers, with the fumbles and the interceptions, but in the playoffs, man, he's been outstanding, and so he'll be the reason when they talk about if they win, he'll be the reason why they won. It won't be he rode the coattails of a defense like Trent Dilfer. Like, that's definitely not the case.
The NFL announced another international expansion game. They're going to play for the first time in Paris, and there's a lot of criticism for these games because it takes a home game away from teams, and players either hate to travel or they're just kind of like okay with the travel, but they don't really love it. And there's the question about safety and things like that with the jet lag and whatnot. Look, Paris is an awesome city. If you've never been there, especially, it's cool to say I went there, I saw it, whatever. It's an enrichment experience, I imagine, for some guys. What's your stance on these international games as they continue to try to grow the game?
Well, the easy answer is we have no control over it. So they tell us where to play, or we're going to play it. It doesn't matter how we feel, what we think, injuries, this, that, and the other. They really don't care. It's all about money. And then on the other side, I mean, I really enjoyed the international games. I think I played in 4 of them. And to see the fans, to see a different part of the world and how the game has grown, and depending on how the team executes that trip makes a big difference. Like, do they give you time to enjoy the country that you're in? Is it safe? Obviously, the travel and this and that is kind of overblown. You get a bed on the ride over. They make it like we usually stayed on the East Coast, so we played in the East Coast. Then we stayed there like Sunday to Thursday, and then we flew over on Thursday. I think it's going to be a close one. I think a field goal at the end wins it. Yeah, a close one. I think a field goal at the end wins it. I think it's Seattle's time. And I don't see a high-scoring affair, actually. I think it's going to be... What's the over-under? You know?
I don't know what the over-under is. The spread at this moment is, what, 4.5?
Yeah. I got to believe the over-under is probably like 40.
Oh, here it is. 45 and a half.
45, yeah. I think it's going to be under that. I think it's a 20 to 17 game.
All right.
I think it's 2 good defenses, really good coaches. I think you're going to have limited possessions and field goal at the end.
Great. The Seattle Seahawks winning a Super Bowl at the 49ers home stadium. I love that. Wonderful.
That'll just be a nice picture you're going to have of them hosting the Lombardi in your stadium.
I love it. Last thing before we let you go, we were talking about the NBA trade deadline, some movement around the NBA. What was it like when teammates got traded? Like again, larger locker room in the NFL, but in the NBA and in pro sports, they're your teammate one day, and then you might never play with them again the next day.
Yeah, I'm trying to think over the course of my career. I remember young when I was my second year in the Chargers, we traded for Chris Chambers, and he was a stud receiver, came in and helped us out right away, and I was a young buck. So I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Outside of that, I have no real name in the NFL. It's coming to my mind. I'm sure it happened, but it's really like when the NBA and these trades happen, it's either one is looking to get younger and looking to get draft picks like the Jazz, and then don't do anything with them. I mean, how many? They got like 15 first-round picks, and have they even used one yet?
Well, I'm not sure. Yeah, they gave 3 away yesterday.
Who'd they get, or what happened?
Oh wow! This is how I love this. We're breaking news to Eric Weddle right now. The Jazz traded 4 young players and 3 picks for Jaren Jackson Jr. from Memphis, who's, a couple times All-Star, All-Defensive NBA, and one-time Defensive Player of the Year in the NBA. So he'll help them out with their defensive problems, ostensibly. So, yeah, they made a move to try to get, an all-star caliber player, especially defender, to add to the young core.
4 guys and 3 draft picks for one player?
No. They got 4 guys back, but one that really, really matters. It's kind of like a bunch of.
So is he going to be the face? Is he that
no,
type of guy?
I mean he'll be. Lowry Markkinen is going to be the face of this team until maybe. But he'll be your second best player for now, and then they hope that one of the young guys ends up being, Keontae George has had a really great year so far. It's funny, I'm talking to a professional athlete, like a super hardcore sports guy who's just out on the NBA right now. And to be fair, this is how a lot of Jazz fans were feeling before that trade because they've stunk for so long. So it's kind of a cool thing to see yesterday where they're re-engaging the fan base by taking a swing like this,
Yeah, I mean, as a fan of sports, not so much the NBA anymore, but you just hope that the team that you follow, the ownership wants to win, and they show it each year, right? Like, you got to know, even though I feel like the Rams kind of maybe missed it at the trade deadline this year, but they've been all in every year, right? And that's all you can ask for as a fan base. So if the Jazz fans up there are pumped, then I'm pumped too. Let's go Jazz.
I love hearing it. Always appreciate your time, my friend. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll talk next week.
You as well, bud. You as well.
That's Eric Weddle. And we go back-to-back with the NFL players and legends. Chad Brown, he has landed safely so far as we know, so we're going to have him next. Former Seahawk, former Patriot. Where are his rooting allegiances in this game? The Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. You gotta love a little Rush, baby. 877-353-0700. I know it's early, but again, this is my Friday because I'm on a plane after the show today, and then I'm in Dubai for PFL fights this weekend, so I want your Super Bowl predictions at 877-353-0700. Seattle, New England. Right now, the spread sits at 4.5 in favor of Seattle. 45.5 for the over-under. Eric Weddle just talked to us and said he thinks it's like a 20 to 17 point game. We're going to effort Chad Brown, see what he thinks of this matchup in terms of its high scoring or not capabilities. The quarterbacks match up pretty well in this game. Sam Darnold had 4,000 yards this year. Drake May had 4,394. May had 31 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Now, officially, Drake May is being listed as questionable for the game. I think that the case would have to be very extreme for Drake May to not be the guy who takes every single snap for the Patriots in this game. I mean, unless we have like a Bo Nix situation where he somehow hurt himself in a fluke accident, you're going to see Drake May. I asked the question, Eric Weddle, about Jackson Smith and Jigba and how you try to approach him, how you slow him down. He gave a great breakdown of the two defensive philosophies that you feel like you kind of have to decide against. And even a basic rudimentary football conversation, I think, could make it pretty clear. You have to choose whether you double him, bracket him, or whether you put your best guy on him, because the second option for Seattle obviously is good enough to hurt you. So you can't just take away that one weapon. So what would you do? What would Chad Brown do? What would Chad Brown like to see his defensive coordinator do to slow down somebody like JSN? Chad Brown, former Colorado Buffalo, former New England Patriot, former Seattle Seahawk. The Venn diagram of people who have played for both of those teams and are now ready to talk about it in sports media. It's a small group, and we're lucky enough to welcome one of the all-time Buffs legends to the show again on the Sean O'Connell Show. Chad, welcome back. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Sean. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. I don't know if you heard my preamble there, but we just had Eric Weddle on, and we were talking to him about the specifics of how he thought New England should try to slow down Jackson Smith and Jigba. And you would not have drawn this duty as a big-body linebacker, but how would you like to see the defensive backs and your defensive coordinator approach somebody like JSN?
Well, there's a couple different philosophies you can go to. You can go with the, Bill Belichick, where we can double you all over the field. But if we make sure that if you find a way to beat us, it's not going to be with that guy. So to be able to have a underneath coverage and a safety on top, obviously would be a way to do that. That way, then you can put your best cornerback on the second best target. You're kind of eliminating the number one threat and the number two threat. From a linebacker perspective, I certainly would have a responsibility in that as well. So my ability, if he's going to line up in the slot as an outside linebacker, to get on top of him and route him and get him off his spot. If I could make him move 3 or 4 yards from his original alignment as he's trying to get around me to get into his route, suddenly the timing between him and Sam Darnold is effective. And so with that pass rush, being able to get to Sam Darnold, an extra second or two could actually matter there. And if those guys aren't exactly in the spot where they expect each other to be, then that connection is not going to be as strong. There's a number of ways you can approach this, and I'm assuming that Mike Vrabel and that the defensive staff in New England are looking at all these different angles. They just don't want to show Sam Darnold one thing. They're going to try to show him multiple things.
Let's talk about Sam Darnold. If he can pull this off, if he can help lead this Seattle team to a Super Bowl championship, it's one of like the great kind of turnaround stories of the recent history in the NFL. A guy that, got drafted to an organization that typically doesn't treat quarterbacks all that well in terms of their success. And then even after he moved on from there, I mean, he was with the Niners as a backup. He won games in Minnesota, and Minnesota still decided they needed to move on from him. If Sam Darnold can pull this off in Seattle, is there a lesson for the NFL, a lesson for draft stories like his if he can make it happen now?
I think it shouldn't be surprising that sometimes quarterbacks need a good situation around them. So you talked about him being drafted to the Jets, and the Jets obviously weren't very good organizationally. They haven't been very good in a long time. There's a reason why they, haven't been in the playoff game. So the thought that, yes, we aren't very good, let's draft a quarterback with our number one pick, and suddenly everything is going to be better. I think that's a ridiculous notion. You've got to build up your organization around these young quarterbacks. It's almost an impossible task to ask these young guys to come in and be able to deal with being the franchise face of the franchise, but also you don't have a very good offensive line. Your skill position guys are not exactly meeting the level you need to be successful. And yet we move on from these guys and say it's all his fault. It's a lesson that the NFL should have more patience with these quarterbacks, particularly when you invest so much draft capital to get them in their first 3 or 4 or 5 picks.
We do treat Super Bowl wins as a quarterback stat, even though the NFL is the ultimate team game. As someone who played the game as well and as long as you did, how do you approach that? Because it is one of the things where you separate the wheat from the chaff, and where you find the elite versus the just pretty good. How do you, as a player who knows all of the ins and outs, approach that quarterback, you got to win a Super Bowl to be truly great conversation?
Well, I think the truly greats do find a way to overcome some shortcomings. The amount of offensive structures that Tom Brady was able to make successful in New England. When he won his first couple Super Bowls, they were a defensive and run-oriented team. Then they went to a phase where they had the 2 tight ends with Gronk and Hernandez. I was there in 06 and 07 when it was Wes Welker and Randy Moss. So a great quarterback is going to be that rising tide that lifts all boats. Outside of a couple of guys in Peyton Manning's tenure from a Colts perspective, that offensive line was never really great. But Peyton was always going to be in the right place. He was always going to get the ball out of his hand quickly. So he was able to overcome some deficiencies that other quarterbacks may not have been able to operate with. Now, having said all that, those are the truly, truly great. But if you're, I've also been a teammate of Trent Dilfer, who won a Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens. And so if we're going to somehow discount Dan Marino's greatness because he never hoisted a Lombardi trophy and elevate Trent Dilfer because he did, that would not be an accurate nor true telling of the facts about their skill sets or their greatness.
Chad Brown is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Former Seahawk, former Patriot. I think I've heard you answer this question already, but I've got to ask it for our audience. Is there a particular rooting interest for you, given the fact that you have connections to both of these franchises?
I mean, at this point, it's been so far removed since I've gotten a paycheck from either of these teams. I don't necessarily root for anybody outside of Colorado Buffaloes and the John Muir High School Mighty Mustangs. All my teams that I played with, the Steelers, Seahawks, and the Patriots, there's been tremendous turnover, obviously, since I was there. So very few connections who were there when I was there. But for the case of the Patriots, I obviously shared a linebacker with Mike Vrabel. So I've got a great connection with them. But I've got great connections with guys on the Seahawks as well. So I know front office people. I know guys who are now coaches. So I just wish my best for all those guys to somehow put their best together in this most important game of the season so they can walk away with no regrets. You may not be necessarily happy with the way things turned out, but I want you to put together such a great game or a great game plan that you feel no regrets and you laid it all on the line out there. That's my only ask for these friends of mine.
You mentioned Mike Vrabel, and neither of the head coaches in this game are particularly long tenured, either as head coaches or at their current spot. But of course, Vrabel has plenty of Super Bowl caliber success as a player, and I will admit to falling back on the lazy tropes as a media member and just saying like, oh yeah, this guy's got experience in the playoffs, and well, you got to have been there to really know. Chad, I wasn't in the NFL. I don't know. Does it translate from player experience and knowing what this game is like, knowing what these 2 weeks of preparation are like, Can you use that to help your team if you're Mike Vrabel?
I think you can, because you've gone through it multiple times if you're Mike Vrabel. So his ability to relate his playing experience to his guys, they're going to be the guys who are going to win or lose the game out there on the field. I think it's critically important. Now, he's got a great number of coaches who he's played for or played with, who he can refer back to for the coaching aspect of things. He was drafted to the Pittsburgh Steelers, as I was. Bill Cowher's got Super Bowl experience. Clearly, Bill Belichick's got that. Josh McDaniels, who is his offensive coordinator, has been there for those Patriots Super Bowls. So he's not going to be lacking from the player experience, nor from what it's like to be a coach and how to best execute the extra week. How do you take advantage of that? All those small pieces of the puzzle that you need to do. And in talking to Bill Cowher about Super Bowl preparation, he always talked about it's such a long week that he wanted to hold back certain aspects of the game plan for getting down to the host city and getting the guys re-excited and reinvigorated by having a couple of trick plays that he wanted to insert into the game plan that may not even be called during the game, but just to get the guys excited and re-engage with it. So it's not just, here's another meeting, here's the same game plan we used all year long. Let's have something new, fresh, and interesting. Bill Cowher always talks about that.
It's been a particularly dramatic year in the coaching carousel, and you talked about turnover. Even the Steelers, even your former team, the Steelers, finally had some turnover, which is not characteristic of that organization. When you look at all the turnover and the coordinators and especially the head coaches that have been hired, is there one situation that's going to draw your attention more than others because of either who got pushed out or who got hired?
Well, we're seeing this continuation of if you coach with Kyle Shanahan or you coach with Sean McVay, suddenly you are feels like you're just next in line to be an NFL head coach. So whether we're talking about Clint Kubiak, most likely leaving the Seahawks and going to the Raiders, or we're talking about LaFleur going to the Cardinals, that's a very interesting way to go about the process. If I'm going to judge it from the outside, and of course I've got college teammates, an Eric Bieniemy or Vance Joseph, who have proven themselves as play callers on both sides of the ball for these guys, and I think they both deserve head coaching opportunities. So rather than focus on maybe one guy, I think this hiring process is a bit flawed, and obviously it skews to some of these younger guys who have, again, coached with Shanahan or McVay. That doesn't necessarily make you ready to be a leader of men. I'm not sure how that equation stacks up for these owners, but for me, it just feels very short-sighted, and it doesn't actually give the team the best chance for success just because somebody coached with someone else.
Did you ever play for a coach younger than you?
Bill Cowher was 34 when he got that Pittsburgh Steelers job. Of course, I was a rookie, so he was older than me. So no, Mike Holmgren, Dennis Erickson, Bill Belichick, all these head coaches were, definitely into their best. Cowher was in his 40s by the time I got. No, he was in his late 30s by the time I got there. But Belichick, Holmgren, and Erickson were definitely older guys. I did have position coaches who were younger, and sometimes that was great because we could relate on a younger person's level. But other times it just felt like, you didn't have quite enough skins on the wall to be telling me what to do and asking me to run down the field and hit somebody full speed with my face.
Well, that's why I asked the question, because we're seeing like these, now it's getting younger and younger and younger. We're seeing 31-year-olds being elevated to coordinator positions and things like that. And I know that the league is a young man's league as well, but there's plenty of guys in this NFL that are in their early and mid-30s that I don't know, again, because I've never been in the NFL, but it's like, what are you going to tell? How are you going to tell me, kid, like how I'm supposed to be doing my job when you probably have never done the job at my level, and you weren't even born when I started doing the job, maybe?
Yeah, it's an interesting, subset of the NFL, these younger coaches, and I often think the the process of some of these guys who didn't play in the NFL, they maybe played in college, and as soon as college was done, they were able to jump onto their dad's staff and work their way up. While that certainly gives them the schematic knowledge and the X's and O's that are needed to be an NFL coach, there's also, I think, a disconnect there as to the struggle that a lot of the players go through to get to the NFL, because life has been great for them. They went to college, they landed an NFL job as soon as they were done in college. So, again, I know that NFL is trending towards younger coaches, and I feel like I sound like an old man with that get off my lawn moment, but I think there is something to a guy who's battle tested as a head coach, who's seen it all, to relate that to you, and somebody who maybe has played in the league, and relate what it's like, going back to our conversation a bit ago about Mike Vrabel, what it's like to play in a Super Bowl. What's the day like? How do you handle all that? How do you handle your nerves in the first couple of quarters? These guys can't speak to that. They've never been in those shoes.
Before I let you go, back to the Super Bowl itself, do you have a prediction on the game?
I think it's going to be an incredibly close game. I know folks are discounting the Patriots offense. Drake May sacked 15 times in the first 3 playoff games. They've been fairly ineffective. Now, they played some really good defenses, but the offense certainly has left something to be desired. But I think you give Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels 2 weeks to prepare for somebody, they're going to dial up some things that are going to be successful. And Sam Darnold on the Seahawks side, his ability to be good Sam, that we saw in the championship game, or is it going to be bad Sam, which we saw last year in Minnesota late this season, and we saw a few times this year with the Seahawks. I think the game plan that they draw for Drake May with the Patriots, what Sam Darnold shows up, those are going to be the 2 deciding factors in this game. So in the end, I've got a close game. If it's a 1-score game and there's 7 minutes left, oh my goodness. The Patriots are excellent at finding ways to manipulate situations and find ways to win close games. The Seahawks, they're able to get on top and use momentum and maybe in some ways their superior talent to drive them forward. They can find ways to win this game as well. I don't necessarily have a prediction other than I expect it to be close at the end.
Chad, I appreciate your time, especially I know you're traveling and it's not an ideal travel day, and that's always stressful and whatnot. So thank you very much for joining us today. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Thanks for your time.
Well, I'm happy to be on with you, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Chad Brown, former Buff, former Steeler, former Seahawk, former Patriot, longtime NFL linebacker, and now NFL and college football analyst. Thinks it's going to be a close game. All right, we'll take a quick one here. The Daily Dump is next. And I got one story for you. It's a callback to something we talked about with a guy who's played in actual NBA games trying to come back into college basketball. His name is Amari Bailey. And you're going to love, Utah fans, when I tell you who has signed Amari Bailey in the college basketball ranks. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. right, you know what? That tease that I just gave you was based on a bad tweet. That's my bad. I'm embarrassed. I got on the old Twitter machine. You try while you're doing the show and you're having interviews, you try to make sure that you're not missing any breaking news. Screwed that one up, guys. I'm sorry. I hate it.
Shout out to the commenter there warning you, too. This guy's not legit.
Yeah, not legit. I cannot tell you how much I loathe the change made where you can have that blue check mark just for paying for it, just by paying for it.
Yeah, because this guy has the blue check mark, which in the old system was credibility.
And I should, you got to head on a swivel, stay on your toes. When you have a radio show and you're in sports media, you should know, right? I'm not passing the blame. It's all on me, guys. But this Scott Hughes character, because of his blue check mark, does not mean that he was telling the truth about the Amari Bailey situation, which we don't have any real developments on.
Nothing to see here.
Nothing happened, guys. Just ignore what I teased and what I almost came to the air with. That would have been really embarrassing.
We could just use this as, we could just say we did a clunky segue on purpose to talk about UVU getting sued.
That's exactly right.
A different Utah County school.
That's exactly right. So, UVU is, look, all love to you Wolverines out there. Shout out Wolverine Wrestling especially.
We got the basketball games on the network, on the fans.
That's
so
right.
we have a lot of love for
Bryce does a great
Wolverines here
job
in this building.
Okay.
Shout out to Bryce Larson.
We love those guys. UVU is potentially on the hook for not hundreds, not thousands, not hundreds of thousands. We're talking over $1 million because of exit fees. This is a bad situation, James.
And did you see Pete Thamel, of all people, broke this? He's not one that usually breaks stuff about mid-major schools like this. Did you see his tweet? In there, in the lawsuit, it says that they have the university president saying, we're not going to pay the exit fee.
This is, UVU is getting sued by the WAC for allegedly not paying their exit fee. They're joining the Big West next year. They're ineligible for the postseason in all WAC sports, including basketball, even though the men's team is currently leading the conference and the baseball team is the defending WAC champions. So from a macro standpoint, maybe the Big West is going to be better for them. From a micro standpoint, if you're on this men's basketball team this year, if you're on this baseball team this year, that is damaging to your college experience.
The basketball team, for anyone who's followed Utah Valley Wolverines recently, they have been, going back to the Mark Pope era now almost 10 years ago, they have been knocking on the door of making the NCAA tournament almost every year. Mark Pope almost had them there. Mark Madsen got them right to the cusp of it. Todd Phillips, who's the head coach now, got them to the WAC championship game last year. And now they don't have, Grand Canyon was the team that was usually in their way. Now Grand Canyon's not in the conference. They're leading the conference again. They're primed to finally knock down that door, go through that break that glass ceiling, get to the NCAA tournament, and then this happens. It's terrible for the men's basketball team in particular.
Really sucks. I had this in the Daily Dump yesterday. We never got to it. I know that everyone's excited about the World Cup, Soccer World Cup happening in North America. You can't afford to go to the games, so we will be covering them aggressively. We'll be watching them. Big Willie's is going to have watch parties for us, 1717 South Main. It's going to be an absolute blast this summertime when we have a North American World Cup going on. In 2028, most of you are aware that the Olympics are coming to L.A. again, the Summer Olympics. Probably another thing that all of us are excited about and won't be able to afford to go to because of how tickets are these days. But the LA Olympics is going to have several different host stadiums for soccer, and most of them are not going to be in LA. this was announced that the selected cities to host Olympic soccer, which, again, piggybacking off of this summer's World Cup, a couple years hence in 2028, you're going to have Olympic soccer matches in New York at the new stadium that's being built right now for NYCFC, Columbus, Ohio, home of the Crew, Nashville, St. Louis, San Diego, and San Jose.
This is where the LA Olympic soccer venues are.
Correct.
I know that the thing about Olympics that maybe a lot of people don't realize is that, yes, they, unlike World Cup, they don't name a host country, they name a host city, right? And we know from the Winter Olympics being here, not everything happens in the host city.
Right.
But it's typically around the host city,
well, and
right?
when it's in the United States, it's like usually in that state for the most part.
Like the farthest that events in the 2002 Olympics were Summit County, or maybe there was some farther south.
Did Brian Head get any? I don't think they did. I think the 2002 Winter Olympics, I wasn't paying that close of attention to venue spots because I was a high schooler at that time, but I mean, Ogden had events.
Yeah, okay. That might be farther than Park City.
Up in Park City, they had events. I don't know that down like Cedar, St. George way, anything happened down there.
No, and I was in, growing up in St. George at that time. We did have the Paralympic opening ceremonies in St. George, but as far as like sports events happening for the Olympics was not anything that far south. So it's just Nashville, New York, and Columbus, Ohio. I mean,
St. Louis.
At least they have one in San Diego.
San Diego and San Jose make sense because they're California.
Yeah, San Jose's still pretty far away.
Okay, here's what I want to happen because I'm petty and weird. I want there to be some, like, I don't know, some corrupt Olympic committee that somehow gets their soccer team in to the LA Olympics, and they're just like, yeah, we get to go to LA, and then your game is actually in Columbus or in St. Louis. I like Nashville quite a bit. I like San Diego quite a bit. I like San Jose quite a bit. St. Louis is a dump. Can't stand St. Louis. Columbus, I've never been to
like the Arch?
Nothing good comes from Columbus, though. There's nothing good sports-wise in Columbus, Ohio at all.
How dare you.
Wouldn't that be a thing, though, if you're an Olympic athlete? You're just like, aha, yes, we're from...
I've never been to L.A. I would love to see the Hollywood side.
You're from some, like, random, weird little republic that none of us have ever heard of, and they're just like, all right, your game's in Columbus. You get to come to the United States, but your game's only in Columbus, and then you got to go home.
They're like... Some of them might be like, well, that must be a suburb of L.A.
It's one of those... I cannot wait to see California. Woo, baby, this is going to be great. And it's just like, oh, you're in Columbus.
Never heard of Columbus, California. Interesting.
Just humid, gross. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, there's plenty of places in California they could be putting Olympic soccer, though. You would think. At least keep it in the same state,
or keep it in the West at least.
Yeah, like hello, America First Field.
If you did it all up and down the West Coast, because like Portland's got a beautiful soccer field, right? Seattle's got a beautiful field. You could do the California venues. Vegas is not far. Arizona's not far. We'll host the game.
We're not even that far. Like 2-hour flight.
We'll host the game, guys. Nope, you're going to New York. You're going to Queens
for the LA Olympics. This is Stanford and Cal in the ACC. Like, yeah, LA Olympics, New York City, baby.
Imagine the Olympian from like Mauritius, okay, comes and plays a game and goes home from the Olympics, and it's just like, oh, my children, my son, my daughter, I brought you some souvenirs from my trip to America. It was amazing. And it's like Statue of Liberty. Your kids are like, what?
I didn't know that was in L.A. I thought that was New York.
Did you even go there? Like, yeah, no, the game was in New York. Dad, it was the L.A. Olympics. Are you lying to us?
It's like the Paris Olympics, and the surfing was in Fiji.
It was in Tahiti.
Or Tahiti.
Yeah.
It's like that, except you'd probably rather be at Tahiti than Paris.
Yeah. That's the good version of this.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, for the Paris Olympics, we're sending you to French Polynesia, and you're going to surf on one of the most insane waves that anyone has ever ridden. You cool with that? All the surfers are like, yeah, that's better.
Yeah, we don't want to surf in the Mediterranean.
Anyway, we got to take a break. We're going to do a little Between the Pipes. Adrian Denny is here in studio with us to talk about this Utah Mammoth team. They're flirting with the bubble. How do we get them up and above that line? Well, we'll talk about it next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. We were just talking about the Summer Olympic soccer venues that are only relevant 2 years from now. We got the Winter Olympics coming like this week, people. Our Nordic skiing expert for the Sean O'Connell Show and Utah Mammoth Insider, Adrian Denny, joins us for some Between the Pipes and whatever the cool phrase is for Nordic skiing out on the tracks of snow. I don't know. The Sean O'Connell Show. And Adrian Denny's brought to you by our good friends over at Aladdin Industries. Hey, how are you?
What's up, man? I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I did hear that curling has already started in the Olympics, and it's underway right now. But cross-country skiing, Sunday before the Super Bowl. We'll get in some cross-country skiing.
Absolutely. And you know what? Maybe going to skip the Super Bowl just to watch the cross-country skiing. That's how into it we are.
I might, because I've got to bring you a full report. I've got to cover this.
That's right.
Like we cover everything else. I take my beat seriously.
All right. So Utah Mammoth in action again tonight at the Delta Center, and they're taking on the Detroit Red Wings team after the demolition of a team that you wanted to see them demolished, right? We talked about this with the Vancouver Canucks being one of those squads where if you're a good team, what do you do with bad teams? You smash them. And you smash them, Schmaltzy with a hat trick on the way. Everybody gets a discount on the headwear at the team store after that. Got to be feeling good heading into this game. But before we get to the Red Wings, let's talk about the things you liked best about that game against the Canucks.
Yeah, I like the final score. It's a game that I called an implied win for Utah.
I actually really just like that principle, that phrase in general, an implied win.
Yeah.
I'm going to start using that.
You can, yeah. I'd love you to. We've got scheduled wins, scheduled losses, implied wins, implied losses. As we use our Mammoth Daily Dictionary, and those are some of our big terms. But that was an implied win, Sean. You had a Monday night home game, 2 games left before the break. You'd lost 2 in a row, 2 one-goal games to 2 top 5 NHL teams. Worst team coming in, Vancouver Canucks, 2 wins during the entire month of January, and you just needed to do that. And a little surprised, and this just shows that, you're a last place team in the NHL and you're just kind of getting through it. Vancouver had started one of their AHL goalies in their previous 2 games, Nikita Tolopilo, and they shut out the Ducks 2-0, and they lost in a shootout to Toronto. So they came into that game on Monday with a 1-0-1 record in their last 2, 3 of a possible 4 points, and then they go with Kevin Lankinen, whose numbers are just atrocious. And I thought, why? What are you doing? And the Mammoth were able to take advantage of it and just pop in 6 goals on 20 shots and dominate the game. But I really liked how they finished the game, because you're up 5-1 in the second, you're up 6-2 in the third. All right, let's get through this, right? Keep to your habits, keep to your identity and the way that you want to play, even though this is a pond hockey game against an NHL team that is the worst the league has to offer right now. And I thought the Mammoth did a good job of just staying focused, staying organized. After the game, it wasn't like they'd won the Stanley Cup. It's like we checked a box here. We won a game that we knew we needed to win like this. And now one big one with Detroit, who, while Utah was taking care of Vancouver, was in Denver, and they shut out the Avs by a count of 2-0. Plus, Utah beat them in Detroit. So you know that they're going to remember that and come into tonight and want to finish off going into break strong as well.
Well, finishing a game like that strong, particularly important, given that it came a couple contests after what happened against Carolina, where you should have won that game, right? You had the lead in that game. Now, it wasn't 5-2 or 6-2, but you allowed Carolina to come back a couple of goals and surge late in it, like a much more meaningful contest, in my opinion, because of, like you eloquently stated, the status of the Canucks right now. But you don't want to see a mistake like that potentially even repeated, especially against a bad team, and keeping the foot on the gas pedal was encouraging to see.
And Utah had to kill a penalty in the third period when it was 5-2, and if it becomes 5-3, who knows where we are, right? We're back in that same spot as Carolina. But I was talking to Nate Schmidt this morning after morning skate, and he said it's just the killer mentality, just keeping the pedal to the metal. And we also heard from head coach Andre Cherney as he was talking to the broadcast team, as we meet with there every time we're together in the Southtown practice and training facility. And he said, you know what, we got up 5-1, we got up 6-2, and we were kind of just okay. It wasn't great. We did what we needed to do, and then we were just kind of okay. But it's not easy to play against a team like that. And you say, worst record in the league, but you just don't know what you're going to get from shift to shift. Like, who's engaged, who's going to be playing, what are they going to do beyond a structure of a system that gets you off your A game, because you're chasing. So I thought in the first period it was kind of helter-skelter. I thought the Mammoth saw a lot of opportunity, and this is going to be everybody gets a goal night, and there was a lot of pace. And then in the second period kind of got back to that structure. And then in the third period, found a way to push through it. Was it perfect? No, but they were as businesslike as I think they could have been against the Canucks.
Well, let's talk about tonight's game. The Red Wings are coming off what you could make a case is the best regular season win of their schedule so far on the road against the Colorado Avalanche, who, of course, right now the best team in the league, I think, in principle and by record. And not only a win, but a shutout of the Avalanche. Strange quirk of scheduling, by the way. At home against the Avalanche, then on the road against the Avalanche on their way here to Utah.
Yeah, they lost 5-0 to the Avs on Saturday.
Yeah.
Went into Denver, scored a goal in the first minute, came on an odd man rush, and pretty much locked it down from there. They completely shut down Nathan McKinnon. Marty Necas didn't play in the game for Colorado, and then scored an empty netter, but held the Avs to 21 shots. John Gibson, who's been really good, was acquired from Anaheim, played all those years with the Ducks, in between the pipes. Been kind of up and down this year, as he usually is, but he's played really well lately and has been a big part of Detroit's success. So, Sean, you saw the Mammoth go into Denver right before Christmas, lose a game, 1-0. Could have gone either way. Detroit goes in, wins a game, 2-0 with an empty net goal. So I think that's a fun comparison that you can make, and how things can flip in the NHL. Mammoth beat them 4-1 there in December, and now they're coming here. And you know what? You talk about the strange quirks of scheduling. 11th. This is the 12th time this year a team plays Utah and Colorado on the same sequence in Salt Lake, in Denver, or vice versa. Sean, nobody has swept Utah and Colorado yet this year in 11 occasions. So this will be the 12th time, and Detroit's going to try and be the first team to win both games in the same sequence, back-to-back, Salt Lake and Colorado. Boston, Tampa Bay, Buffalo, Islanders, Rangers, Florida, Winnipeg, Ottawa, Columbus, Toronto, and Philly are the teams who have had the Avs and Mammoth on the road this year in 2 straight games, and nobody has gone 2-0. And I was going to drop that today on the show, Sean, because that was my treadmill project this morning. And I thought, I got to make good use of this, so here we go.
The high-altitude stretch for these NHL teams, they've not won both games.
Yep.
Interesting.
And it's rigorous. Like, 2 good teams, 2 teams that kind of take it out at you, right? You win one, what are you going to have left in the tank? You play the Avs, say you lose there, come into Utah having just played in a high-intensity competitive game against a good team, you're going to be on your A game, right? You're going to be at that level coming into this game. Whereas for Utah, the challenge today is going from Vancouver to a team that just played the Avs and is going to have that competitive juice going, having played a high-intense hockey game 48 hours ago while Utah was just trying to keep to their habits and feel good about a game against the worst team in the league. And again, it's not easy. Rarely do you, I think, feel great about beating a team like that, because you're just not on your game because they're so bad.
Schmaltz with the hat trick, and I just want to make sure we take every opportunity to talk about the year that he is having. And in important stretches for this team, he has really been awesome. Hopefully that was the beginning of what will be a great stretch, an important stretch for Mammoth hockey, because as I mentioned before the break, they're flirting with this bubble area a little bit too much for people to be truly comfortable. We saw what happened last year where St. Louis went on that crazy run. Hopefully it'll be the Mammoth that go on a run like that. But if they do, it'll be partially on the efforts of Nick Schmaltz, who's just been awesome in this 2025-2026 season. 3 goals the other night.
14-1 is the record this year for Utah when he scores a goal. So I'm going to do some math on the air here. When he doesn't score a goal, 15, 22.
Wow.
So there's your Nick Schmaltz value.
That's that's a significant swing.
The other note there, because when your stars are your stars, you win, right? Paterka, Gunther, Schmaltz. The three of those guys don't score in a single game. One win.
Wow.
This year.
So, by the way, something that undoubtedly other teams are paying attention to. If we could take away that trio of scorers, this team does not overcome that difficulty but once so far this year. So, massive importance on those three players.
So the challenge for the opposition, those guys are now on three different lines.
Yeah.
And you've seen J.J. Paterka and Kyler Yamamoto become kind of a duo with Barrett Hayton in the last couple games. Great to get Schmaltz going because him and Keller and Krause had been quiet for a rare time. Really, the first time since they've been together. Krause ended a 4-game scoreless drought on Monday. Keller had a couple of assists. So, yeah, if those three can have another big game tonight against Detroit, that's going to be big. Gunther hasn't scored in 2 games since coming back from missing 2 games, so that's a guy that you feel like anytime he's on the ice, he can find a way to manufacture you a goal or 2.
I know we've talked about it already, but now that it's a reality, the Olympic break is coming, and we're going to see Clayton Keller for skating for Team. Is it 5 Mammoth total?
4 total.
4 total.
4 total. 4 different countries.
4 total for 4 different countries for the Utah Mammoth. And the rest of these guys, I assume, are going to be watching a lot of Olympic hockey, but hopefully staying in reasonable shape and getting that rest. It effectively serves as kind of an all-star break for this Olympic cycle. Not for your captain, though.
Yeah, and head coach Andre Cherney wanted nothing to do with the topic today.
Interesting.
He said it's all about Detroit. We've got 1 game left, then we can talk about it. We've talked about it for the last month and a half. Tonight, we're talking about Detroit. Sean, I will not do that to you, though.
Well, I do appreciate how coaches go 1 game at a time. We don't have to.
I would not do that to Valley Plumbing and Aladdin Industries. I have picked Keller to have a big game tonight. We do a lock of the night on our radio and TV broadcast on Hockey Night in Utah. And tonight's lock of the night is who is going to get the big hat in the locker room after the game. And I took Keller because I think in front of the fans at the Delta Center last game for 3 weeks before he goes to the Olympics, he's been a little quiet. I think the captain is in for a big game for the Mammoth. Veggie heading off his last game at home, so he'll be for Team Czechia. J.J. Paterka for Team Germany. I think we'll see our Olympians have a big game tonight. And there we'll want to talk about it after the game.
Speaking of the Olympics, a couple of NHL guys have been dubbed the flag bearers, named flag bearers for their country. We saw this. Leon Draisaitl got voted in to help the Parade of Nations. He's carrying one of the flag bearers for Germany, right?
Yep.
And then, is it Pasternak?
Believe so for Czechia.
For Czechia, yeah. Interesting. That's what an honor. What a cool thing for these guys.
Yeah. J.J. Paterka will be on Team Germany with Draisaitl. It'll be fun to see those guys on same team. They've never really played before. Here's a nugget for you. OC talking about Paterka and Draisaitl. Paterka on Saturday night became the 5th fastest German in the NHL to get to 100 assists. And the company you have up there with Leon Draisaitl setting the standard. So yeah, excited to watch Team Germany. My nephew, his favorite players, J.J. Paterka.
All right.
So we will not be missing a German game with Draisaitl and Paterka.
If you're listening, by the way, and you're going like, wait, you're telling me that Canada's not having any hockey players? Canada's flag bearers are skiers. Michael Kingsbury and Marielle Thompson, who are obviously very famous, and we're big fans of both of those people. Yes.
My goodness.
Way more famous than Connor McDavid or any of the assorted all-star caliber NHL players that could have been named Flag Bear. Is Canada getting bored of hockey? Is that what we're finding out with those votes?
That is a shift in mindset.
Team USA's flag bearers are a speed skater, Aaron Jackson, and bobsledder Frank Del Duca, which is a phenomenal name. We'll have to talk more about him with Jeff Schwartz, who is our bobsledding insider and a consultant here for this Olympic cycle in 2026. So, focusing back in on what we should be talking about here.
Cross-country skiing?
Well, there is that, but Red Wings at home, and then an Olympic break, and then you've got kind of a home stretch that you need to see this Utah Mammoth team for me at least, you need to see this Utah Mammoth team get away from the flirtation with mediocrity in the standings. There are too many teams, Nashville, Seattle, Anaheim. You're crowded in that spot where a game or two is going to potentially be the swing on that bubble. How do they get off of it?
Plus, with LA, literally in the last 15 minutes, reportedly acquiring Artemi Panarin, right, in that mix from the New York Rangers. Well, if you look at the schedule, I'm big on schedules and scheduling wins and all that.
And implied wins.
And implied wins, yes. So the Mammoth, coming out of the Olympic break, will have 25 games, and they will have 14 of those games being played at the Delta Center, where they're 7-1-1 in 2026 and 16-8-2 overall. So that'll be big coming out of the Olympic break with 3 straight at home. I liked how we opened out of the Four Nations break last year with 1 game at LA, because it's not an easy game to play coming out of Christmas, first game of the year, blah blah blah. But you've got the Colorado Avalanche coming right out of the Olympic break, 3 weeks from tonight. Not to wish away the Olympic break, but that'll be huge. And then you have Minnesota after that, and then you have Chicago. Is the 3rd game to wrap up this stretch of 6 straight games. Then you're on the road in March for the first time since last week. So I think the home schedule will play into that. Logan Cooley slated to be back, coming back from the Olympic break. As general manager, all continues to go smooth there, which we have seen Logan practicing this week again. Alexander Kerfoot also was out there on the ice, so hopefully those guys, when we come back in 3 weeks, are ready to go.
I just want to do, this is apropos of nothing, and I always appreciate Adrian with Between the Pipes, brought to you by Aladdin Industries, your Utah Velux dealer, and by Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Air. So we were talking about the high-altitude swing for these NHL teams. I was like, all right, what are the other high-altitude cities in the NHL?
Okay.
First of all, a caution to all you people that are relying on AI. The AI answer for the highest altitude city in the NHL says Salt Lake City is the highest altitude city in the NHL, located at 4226. Other high altitude teams include Colorado Avalanche at 5,280 feet. AI is telling you in the same paragraph, Salt Lake City is the highest, also Denver is higher. Okay, so be careful with your AI, people. All right, because I knew Denver was higher than Salt Lake City. I wanted to see the other high altitude cities. Do you know what the other higher altitude cities are in the NHL?
I'm going to say Calgary.
Yes.
Calgary's
3 on the list.
Gosh. That is a good one. Gosh. Edmonton's more on the plains and the prairie. Vancouver's on the ocean. I guess OC. I'm going to take Edmonton. And I don't see anything else in the NHL that doesn't look like sea level to 500 feet.
That's right. It is It is a low man's game, the NHL. They don't deal with altitude, baby. That's why Adrian Denny gives you that insight.
Oh,
you
my
can't
gosh.
beat Colorado and you can't beat Utah back-to-back because at that point your body's just breaking down, all right? You got the bends, basically. You're not able to handle the altitude change.
Did I get it right?
You got it right.
Holy smokes.
Denver, Salt Lake, Calgary, Edmonton.
Did you like that as an attorney? Like I gave you 45 minutes on my answer, knowing that I am not arguing a good case here, but I'm going to do my best?
There's nothing wrong with a little filibustering in order to flesh out your answer, or Google, as I often do. Oh, that's a really interesting question there, James. And, of course, I know this right off the top of my head. Calgary is the third highest. That's how I handle it. That's how you should handle it as well. Fake it till you make it, people.
That's it.
Adrian, you're the man. I always appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I'm looking forward to the Olympics, hockey, and, of course, cross-country skiing, which I will have covered for you right here. Sean O'Connell Show.
The number one voice in Olympic cross-country skiing here in this Utah market, and our number one Utah Mammoth insider, Adrian Denny. Between the Pipes, brought to you by Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Air, and Aladdin Industries, your Utah Velux dealer. Plenty left to go on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, we're going to give away some Black Crows tickets in our next segment. We'll have a trivia question for you. Right now, our first Olympic update. James Peterson is our curling expert, which, man, Jeff Schwartz was a little upset that you had already stolen that one.
He was.
But Jeff is our bobsled expert.
It's a good thing someone as large as Jeff doesn't live anywhere near us, because I probably would have been like, okay, fine, Jeff, you can have it.
By the way, Jeff texted me this morning, because remember when we were talking to him on the show yesterday, he was like, I'm going out to Super Bowl week. I got to go to all these parties and stuff.
Terrible.
These, by the way, these parties, I know how it is for him, because I've done radio of some kind with him for like 9 years now, and every year he goes, and every year he shakes hands and kisses babies, and he hates it every time. These are the parties that are like corporate events run by television networks, or they're run by major sponsors, where it's like unlimited, amazing, all-you-can-eat food, and all of your favorite athletes are there. So,
and probably a fair amount of your favorite celebrities.
Yeah, probably celebrities. So you or I would love to be at these types of things. And Jeff texted me this morning, just like, I'm already getting anxiety over having to go socialize with people.
Jeff's a bit of a anti-social curmudgeon, right?
Bit of an introvert, yes.
Yeah.
And because I'm an understanding, compassionate friend, I said, you need to just be normal.
Yeah, just be normal.
Just be normal. Stop complaining about that.
Just be normal.
Anyway, our first Olympic update from our curling expert.
Thoughts and prayers to Jeff, by the way.
James Peterson has, by the way...
We need to find some cheesy music for this.
Early grievance against Olympic events that happened before the opening ceremonies.
I don't know what you're talking about. I was prepared all day.
James was champing
I
at the
watched
bit.
these at 2 a.m.
Yes. Watched them live. Not even looking for the miracle-style replay.
Yeah.
All right, so the Milano Cortina Olympic Games, the Cortina Olympic Curling Stadium in Cortina d'Ampezzo.
D'Ampezzo. I looked up the pronunciation and now I forgot it.
You do have to do the
D'Ampezzo.
It's like pizza.
I think it's D'Ampezzo, something like that.
Yeah.
And the Cortina d'Ampezzo, it's a city, a town in Italy.
Okay, thank you for clarifying there.
There you go. And Cortina Olympic Curling Stadium, an incredible name of a venue that they just built, no doubt, for Olympic curling. And yeah, an exciting day in Cortina d'Ampezzo. Great Britain tops Norway 8-6, which I understand. Which, as I've learned here, as I've really tried to bone up on my curling here, that's not. It's not as close as a 2-point win. You would think a 2-point win is. England or Norway didn't even have to throw their last stone to clinch the win there. They got it 8-6 fairly convincingly. Then we had a thrilling extra ender. That's what I'm going to call these.
Okay.
So curling has ends. John, they're like innings in baseball.
Yeah, okay.
Each team goes. Each person, whether mixed doubles is a team or individual, whatever. And there's 8 ends in mixed doubles. They had to go to a 9th end. Get excited. But Switzerland comes out on top over Estonia 9-7. So they kind of dominated in that 9th end.
Historic rivalry, Switzerland, Estonia. Love to see it.
Yes, Western Europe versus Eastern Europe. A lot of hate there. Canada over the Czech Republic, and then they just blew them out, embarrassed them 10-5.
Are we still using Czech Republic?
Or is it Czechoslovakia?
Are we supposed to say Czechia now? What are we supposed to use?
Is it Czechia?
I don't know.
I'm gonna have to look it up. I thought it was Czech Republic.
You're gonna have to.
I'm gonna have to check. I'm gonna have to check.
Got him.
So Zach, I'm gonna have to. Okay. Sweden over South Korea 10-3. Even more of a dominant win for Sweden than Canada over Czechia, Turkey, whatever we're calling it now. And then Team USA is making their mixed doubles debut, and it's a round-robin tournament.
Okay.
That's the format here for mixed doubles. 2 a.m. versus Norway on Peacock. I hope all of you will be up with me watching that live because I absolutely will be watching these live.
Well, I know you will. And by the way, if you are of Norwegian descent, I need you red, white, and blue, okay, Star Spangled Banner. I need you to be all on board with Team USA, even against that. I mean, this is like
you could have
Iceland and the Mighty Ducks.
You could have rooted for Norway against Great Britain in that tough loss for Norway today. But when they're playing your Team USA, you got to disown Norway.
Yep.
No, I actually never liked them.
Good.
I didn't like any of my ancestors that are from there.
Also, James, I'm going to I hate to call you out, but I'm embarrassed that you didn't know that the Cortina Olympic Curling Stadium was actually built in 1956 for those Olympics.
Okay. So they had a nice renovation for this one because they probably didn't use it much.
Modern accessibility upgrades and seating capacity of 3,500 people.
No doubt a giant Jumbotron.
Nope, we don't do Jumbotrons. In Italia, they just do a Tron.
A Tron.
Sean, it's only a Tron, and no a Jumbotron, only a Tron.
It don't need to be. Why everything need to be jumbo? You're so American. You want it to be jumbo.
It does feel like a direct shot at the United States of America.
Everything got to be big and jumbo.
They're just like, no, we're doing a regular Tron. They're just no more jumbo anything. You can't supersize at the McDonald's right now in Italy. This is all anti-American rhetoric. They're making things smaller because they don't like our excessive everything.
Our
basically.
American excess.
Yeah.
So
I'm not on board with you right now, Northern Italy.
So tomorrow, since there's another slate of mixed doubles curling, stay tuned for tomorrow's update when Porter Larson hosts the show tomorrow here on ESPN 792.1 FM.
It will be Porter indeed. All right, we're going to take a break. We got some crosstalk coming. We have some trivia to give away a pair of Black Crows tickets. The Black Crows are coming in August. That'll be the 13th of August to the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. I'll have a question for you next, 877-353-0700. And Chris Paul is on the move again. We'll talk about that next. The Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Black Crowes tickets up for grabs, 877-353-0700. If you know the answer to this trivia question, you can go watch the Black Crowes at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on August 13th, 2026. We started the show today. Look, if you're James Harden's mom and you're listening to the show, I'm sorry. We were not kind to James Harden today. How many times has James Harden been an NBA All-Star? He's on the move. He will join Donovan Mitchell and company in Cleveland. Also, Chris Paul on the move again. A 3-team deal where, let's see, who's all involved. I want to make sure I get this thing right for you. Chris Paul, let's see, the Raptors, the Clippers, and the Nets have agreed on a multi-team trade, sending Chris Paul to the Raptors and Ochai Agbaji, a 2032 Raptors second rounder, and cash to the Nets. This is a salary situation for the most part. Brooklyn gets cash to cover Agbaji's salary. The Clippers clear a roster spot and save $7 million. And the Raptors will not even require Chris Paul to report. They're going to still see if there's a market for his services somewhere. Shams, by the way, is all over all these trades. And I just love that he also pays attention to the lesser, the stories of lesser importance in the NBA while this is happening. This is from 48 minutes ago from Shams. Lakers center Jackson Hayes has been suspended 1 game for pushing a Wizards mascot. Your entire job is to juggle these 2 phones and see what's going on with all the trades and the personnel movement. But he's so dedicated to the craft that he's like, also, we've got a mascot pushing suspension. Shams, you're truly doing the Lord's work out there. We appreciate you. Crosstalk with Spence Checketts is brought to you by our friends at Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100 for $2,500 off, 10 windows or more. It's a relatively painless 6-week process. You have them come out, measure the windows, tell you what you need, tell you what you like. Well, ask you what you like, tell you what you need, and then they manufacture the windows, they warranty the windows, they install the windows, they cover the windows for life. 801-850-9100, advancedwindows.com. Tell them OC and Spence sent you. Spencer Checketts, host of The Drive. Fancy seeing you here.
Hello, Sean. I would like to be I want to be an Olympic expert. So James with a phenomenal, wildly entertaining breakdown of curling earlier today.
You cannot have bobsled. You cannot have Nordic skiing.
What's the event where they ski and, like, kill a guy?
Biathlon.
I want to do that one.
Biathlon is great. It's cross-country skiing where you stop and you don't kill anyone. You shoot a very low-powered rifle at a target, but still.
I will take that one.
All right, biathlon.
I've always been fascinated with, like, hey, okay, today's event, you will ski downhill and then potentially shoot another person.
You know what I love about biathlon, though? It actually is the event that, from a lifestyle perspective, there's like an obvious route to it. It makes the most sense, right? Because if you live in Lapland up there in, like, Scandinavia, that's what you're doing in the wintertime. You're cross-country skiing out into the wilderness, and then you got to shoot a reindeer or something.
Yeah.
So it's like a real-life event. Bobsled doesn't make sense where that came from.
Well, and, I mean, if we're honest, neither does curling.
Curling for sure does.
My little-known fact, I was a venue manager for the Salt Lake Ice Center for the Winter Olympic Games in 2002.
Okay.
Part of that job entailed we all had to rotate to work different events. And I'll be honest, I don't know that I had ever even heard of curling. And one random Wednesday, like, Spence, you're up at the curling event today. You got to go up there and work the event or whatever. And I remember I walked in and I'm looking around, and for the first time in my life, I was watching curling live, and I was like, what the hell?
It's awesome, though.
But no, I mean, I'm quite convinced to this day that you, me, James, and Porter could start a team, and within a few months would be pretty good at it.
Well, let's try.
We've got jobs, Sean. What if we go to Jackie? We're like, hey,
where are the Winter Olympics in 2030, guys?
Jackie, just so you know, you gotta get new talent, new producers, because we have started a curling team and we're training for the 2030 games. And look, I don't want to be disrespectful to folks that love curling and understand the intricacies of curling, but I can remember sitting there watching the event like stunned, having never had seen it before. I'm like, this doesn't seem like it's that hard.
2030.
Yeah.
The French Alps Games
Oh,
is what they're calling them.
Let's go.
French Alps 2030. You know how much it would just drive them insane if 4 white dudes from Utah showed up and just Americanized this whole event. I'm loud and obnoxious. You're loud and slightly less obnoxious.
No, I can be pretty obnoxious, let's be honest.
And we just take over curling at the French Alps. Hell yeah.
And it's not just 4 white dudes. Like, hey, what's their background? Oh, they were sports talk radio hosts for 20 years and then decided to dabble in curling and got it done.
And by the way, now we're silver medalists. We're probably not going to win, but hey. We'll
also, newfound, not respect, because I've listened to you and Jeff for years. Jeff spoke to my heart today. As somebody who, throughout.
Jeff was not on today.
Well, when you were talking to him about his anxiety for attending parties, as somebody who has been dragged to these events my entire life, I've never enjoyed them. Ever.
Tell us about your other first world problems that you despise.
Yeah, I also don't love our yacht. It's too big. And then private jets. What's up with that? I cannot.
I love how you lean into it.
Well, what am I going to do?
When I said like 48 seconds ago, when I said slightly less obnoxious, I was wrong.
Now more obnoxious.
Far more obnoxious. Yes.
The point is, I can't stand events like that. I really can't. I've never enjoyed it. I like that Jeff has the same attitude.
I love things like that.
I want to be home with that dog, watching games, hanging out.
Can I tell you something?
Please do.
There's games on every night.
Yes, there is.
That dog's going to love you no matter what.
That's true.
There's one Super Bowl a year.
Uh-huh.
And that means there's probably like 4 total Super Bowl parties a year.
Yeah, but there's nothing authentic about these gatherings. There's nothing real. And here's the other thing.
I'm sorry, are snow crab legs not authentic?
You can get snow crab at Harmon's and go home and eat it.
Is the ahi tuna, is that not authentic?
Also available at local grocery stores. I can't do the small talk. I'm horrible at it. So within 30 seconds, my skin starts burning. I'm like, I got to get out of here. So if faking a phone call was an Olympic event, I would medal for sure, because that's my exit. That's my exit strategy. Like, oh, hey, well, sorry, man, got to get this. Boom, out of the it's the best way to exit a conversation.
I would be the one that's at the event with you. Be like, I noticed that screen is still dead, blank, and totally black. Spence, you did not receive a call. Anyway.
Yeah, I would say it's on silent. You can't see. I got a call. It's my mom. I've got to go take the phone call.
Spence doesn't have a mom. I would be telling everyone.
Well, if I did, James
party
would disrespect her and hate her, as we learned this week. He doesn't respect the role of the moms at home. Isn't that what we learned this week?
To piggyback off what James was saying about how women don't belong in the professional workforce.
Correct, yes. And I thought
all-time worst text we've ever got.
I thought it was an interesting point for him to make, but, to each their own.
Anyway, what's coming up on the drive?
Well, I heard we were going to have a quiet NBA trade deadline. That didn't really work. We've got Andy Larson, Tony Jones, Tim McMahon, and then Mike Yam live in San Francisco. So 60% trade stuff, 40% football stuff, and that's kind of the deal this week. And we'll continue to dig into what the Jazz did yesterday, and the more and more I kind of process it, the more and more I like it. So and Washington essentially did the same thing today. If you look across the landscape after what the trade deadline will manifest, about 2/3 of the league will believe that they have a good team next year. Instead of this year where Washington's going to keep tanking even though they got AD, the Jazz are going to keep tanking even though they got Jaren Jackson Jr. About 10 to 12 teams are unserious the rest of this year. I don't think that's going to be the case next season. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But I think if you're a Jazz fan, you should feel pretty good today.
I'm going to be on an airplane still when
just real quick.
When my show ends tomorrow.
I'm the snob, right? We've established that. So
yes.
What? You're going to be on an airplane?
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're flying coach like the regular rest of us, right? Who fly? Or I'm sorry. Where will you be seated on said airplane?
In a seat.
Yeah, in a seat. Does it go all the way back so you can sleep and enjoy snow crab and ahi tuna potentially on your way to your destination? Just out of curiosity, because I don't
know. Well, I don't know.
I fly coach with
I don't know.
the rest
really?
of the regular people.
Really? Private jet?
Just real quick, which class will you be flying in? Yeah, that's what I thought.
business.
He who is without sin, let him cast the first stone, Sean O'Connell.
In any case, I had a real question, an actual sports question. I will be on an airplane still when the trade deadline approaches, or when tomorrow. It's tomorrow, right?
Yep.
Are the Jazz done?
Whew, it's a good question. The answer is no. But the answer is no prior to the start of next season. Like, this roster is incomplete. Is there something out there for them to – I'll tell you what. The Kobe White kid and then Jared McCain, 2 players that were traded today, would have been, like, perfect for what the Jazz need to kind of complete this roster. So what they need, it may not be out there prior to tomorrow, but it may be out there prior to the start of next season. They're not. This is not the group we will see start next season. So – that's how I'll answer the question. Maybe it's before tomorrow, but definitely before opening night next year.
Stay tuned for The Drive with Spence Checketts. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. We won't do it again tomorrow, but Porter and James will be holding it down. I will be back on Monday. Make sure you tune in to the PFL on Saturday. It'll be on ESPN. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.